Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 16, 2024 Whitesburg Unified School District Board meeting. I'm calling this meeting to order at 5 o'clock p.m. Wendy, do we have any public comments on closed session agenda items?
We do not.
Thank you. Seeing no comments, we will now proceed to closed session. We will reconvene to open session at 6 o'clock p.m. Thank you, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 16, 2024 Whitesburg Unified School District Board meeting. Thank you for that notification. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. And I'd like to extend a warm welcome to my colleagues here, it's been a while, to cabinet and staff and parents in the community. Thank you for being here. We have a full agenda this evening. 3 special presentations. We have a Whitesburg Middle School update. We have, thank you. We have some district leadership reports as well. A math update, a special ed presentation, and then we have just the regular course of business. So we'll get through that. So again, thank you for being here and for your continued commitment to our district. Wendy, let's get started with a roll call.
Mr. Van Willis?
Present.
Dr. Goldman?
Present.
Ms. Hamburg? Present. Ms. Legaspi? Present. And Mr. Martinez?
And I see Mr. Willis Chang in the audience. Would you please lead us in the flag salute?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we do not have anything to report out from closed session this evening. Next item is, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Rebecca. Do I have a second?
Give a second.
Thank you, Neil. And Wendy, we have, oh, I'm sorry. We didn't help to vote on it, right? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Roger. Do we have public comments on non-agenda items? Let me see.
We do have one.
We have one. This one, right? That I
Yes, sir.
received? Okay, thank you. Titus DeCourcy,
Yes, sir.
please come up. Welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Did I pronounce that
Yeah,
correctly?
correct.
Thank you.
First time.
Oh,
Can I begin?
before you begin,
Yes, sir.
per the public bylaws, you have 3 minutes.
Yes, sir.
And then just know that as a board, we cannot respond to your comments.
I understand.
Perfect.
Thank you.
And welcome.
Thank you very much. First time here. My name is Titus DeCourcy. My wife and I are the parents of 9 children, 2 of whom attend Da Vinci Connect High School here in El Segundo. One of those 2 children, my daughter, shared with us that on 2 separate occasions, she was followed into the women's restroom by a boy who identified as a female, and she felt scared and unsafe. My daughter had no way of knowing this boy's true intentions. Just like the laws ensure that all genders have a right to use a public restroom, should those same laws ensure that all genders feel safe? My daughter had no way of knowing if, although the boy was identifying as a female, if he still had his male sex organs or not, nor did she know if the boy was pretending to identify as a female for the purpose of entering the restroom to look, approach, or assault unsuspecting heterosexual girls. Isn't it better to be proactive than reactive? Instead of waiting for an incident to happen and reacting to it, Isn't it better to be proactive and come up with options to prevent a potential assault or simply to ensure that everyone feels safe? If the original premise for separating restrooms was to allow women with vaginas and men with penises to go into the restroom in private and with the assurance of safety, shouldn't that premise continue to be followed when it comes to boys identifying as women? That premise is being shattered. In the spirit of equity, which is defined as fairness, isn't it fair to allow each gender to have their own restroom? Aren't we confusing equity or fairness with equality, which means the same? All genders should have the right to feel safe and to be treated fairly by going into a restroom that represents only their specific gender. It's not fair to have multiple genders in the same restroom. It's only a matter of time before an incident occurs where a young lady is assaulted by someone who pretended to be a girl and took advantage of this all gender restroom to carry out the assault. Our children should not be marginalized. No child should be marginalized. I urge you to take action and come up with a solution that ensures the safety of all and not just a select few. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Wendy, any other comments?
No other comments here, but just, Zoom looks like it's down. So, I don't see it so well.
So down.
Yeah, are we up? Oh, okay.
No comments on Zoom.
No comments on Zoom?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, give me 1 second, Blake, I'm just. All right. This now leads to the next section of our board meeting, the special presentations. Like I mentioned earlier, we have 3 special presentations. Here's the first one, and Blake, I'll let you introduce the first.
Sure. Really happy to introduce Tom Vander Ark today. Had a good opportunity to meet with Matt Wonder and Tom to talk about some work on profiles of a learner. And don't think we're going to talk too much about that today, but definitely part of that conversation came out. We began to discuss AI, artificial intelligence, and maybe some strategic approaches that the district can take to start leveraging some of those tools, better understand them, have community dialogue. So I'm going to not do it the justice that Tom will do. So I'm gonna defer to Tom to share. But this is a brief kind of conversation to sort of kick off our work with AI. I know board members had requested that. I know it's important that we do that as well. Staff understands that. But thank you, Tom, for being here today. Look forward to working with you.
Welcome, Tom.
Thank you, Superintendent Silvers. President Martinez and school board members, it's an honor and a privilege to join you this evening. My only regret is that I wasn't able to do it in person. I do hope to have the opportunity to speak with you in person, perhaps at month's end at a joint board meeting. Today, I do appreciate that the board has raised some questions about the implications of artificial intelligence, and to be responsive to those queries, I'd like to make 3 quick summary level comments, and I'm welcome to respond to any questions or comments today or in the ensuing weeks. I know a number of the board members know a good deal about this topic and probably use AI professionally, and to respect the knowledge that exists in the room. Let me make 3 quick comments to try to summarize a complicated, what I think of as a new era in human civilization. Number 1, AI looks like it has really profound implications for work and learning. I had a 40-year career in the information age as both a technologist and engineer, and for 30 years as a public school educator. And my sense is that we are about a year into a brand new era, that the information age ended and that we're in a new era of human-computer interaction, marked by computer models that can learn and have really, instead of just being calculation engines, are reasoning engines and creation engines. So that's one big difference. The second big difference is natural language interface. So we're beginning to shift from a computer screen and a GUI sort of an interface to a natural language interface. Even for complex problem solving and coding can now be done just with natural language prompts. So we're in a new era where there's a new tool set, and the implications are that really every job in every sector is being reconsidered, and in many cases, at least tasks within almost every job are being automated. So one implication I'd like to leave you with is I think AI literacy is a brand new critical priority, particularly for secondary schools, absolutely for high schools, but I think digital literacy is more important than ever for middle schools. The second point is that I think AI invites us to, as school systems, to reconsider our goals and our learning experiences and our reporting, the signals that we provide to individual students and to our community that sort of mark our progress. On the goal front, as Superintendent Silvers mentioned, the rise of AI has caused thousands of school systems around the country to begin rethinking their learning priorities and to express a broader set of learning goals. And certainly reading and writing and mathematics are as important as ever, but there are a new set of priorities as we think about working and learning with smart machines. I think creativity, critical thinking, I think ethics and courage and perseverance are more important than ever. And so it may be a useful next step for Weisburn, the broader Weisburn community, to have a conversation about learning goals and the implications of living and working with artificial intelligence. The last comment is that I think there's some important short and long-term implications of AI for you as school system leaders. After 18 months of growth and changes in generative AI, we're starting to see some guidance emerge from leading associations in education. One collaboration is called Teach AI, and they recently released some sample guidance for school systems. I think that's really useful, and have invited the superintendent to take a look at that. Some of the guidance in there is covered in your current use policies, but I do think that probably in this calendar year, you should think about an update to your use guidelines just to make it clear your point of view about how and where and when AI is to be used in Weisburn schools, and equally important, how to make sure that students and faculty members and their data remains safe and secure. So that's priority number one, is to think about updating your use guidelines. Number two would be, as I mentioned earlier, AI literacy for teachers and students, I would add parents, is really critical. And I'd urge you to put plans in place, particularly at the middle school, to make sure that every graduating 8th grader has good knowledge of artificial intelligence and its particular applications in social media. It's becoming really clear that there's a lot of dangers to the use of social media, particularly in teenagers. And so when I say AI literacy and digital literacy, I'm speaking very particularly about thoughtful guidelines around the use of social media to keep students safe. Longer implications, maybe not urgent, but important things to do next year is really encourage Weisburn teacher leaders to investigate the powerful applications of AI, both using language models directly, but also using some of the apps that others have used in lesson planning, in tutoring. We're seeing really interesting applications of learning assistants that combine tutoring with sort of path guidance. Some of you have heard of Khanmigo from Khan Academy. That's an interesting example worth keeping an eye on. And then finally, I think a more interesting at the high school level is inviting young people to use artificial intelligence in designing and executing projects, particularly community-connected projects. We've seen some evidence of good examples of that at Da Vinci schools and other Southern California schools. So probably more applicable in the high school level than in middle school, but that direct student use of AI is really an exciting possibility to rethink the high school experience so that students have the opportunity to do even more challenging work that is valuable for their community. Last thing I'll mention is I do think the rise of AI makes career exploration even more important, that students should leave 8th grade with having had a systematic opportunity to look at a number of different career fields, and in doing so, gain a sense of their own strengths and interests and values, and in part so that they can make a good high school choice. You have a number of really interesting high school options in your region, and every student should leave Weisburn schools really prepared to make a good high school and beyond choice based on extensive career exploration and financial literacy. Thanks for your time tonight, and I'm happy to be of service this evening, in the next few weeks, in the next few months, as the board sees fit.
Tom, thank you for your presentation. To my colleagues, anybody have any comments or questions with regards to?
I like your term, it's a new era. Indeed it is. And it's my understanding ChatGPT 5 came out today with natural language interface and laughter and jocularity, which is somewhere between amazing and scary. So being involved with this for our students, making sure we're ahead of the game, or at least with the game, is critical. So appreciate your help and thoughts here. Thank you.
Good question. Tom, thank you for your time today. Question for you is, are you seeing districts K-8 already implementing some AI components into their school curriculum? What's been your experience so far? It's been difficult to accurately assess that, but a couple articles came out today with the latest data that we've seen, which suggest maybe only a third have disclosed the use of AI. It's probably closer to 2/3 of teachers have made some use of it, and probably around the same level, about 2/3 of middle and high school students report some use, and that use is often mixed between school use and social use. For example, Snap has a AI built into it, often used in social use. The leading districts have a policy in place that signals the importance of AI and encourages rather than discouraging its use. I would say the minority of them are using large language models directly, either ChatGPT or in some cases Gemini. I think a larger percentage have jumped on some of the multi-app platforms like Magic School, which have a number of apps built in that teachers can use for lesson planning, for instructional materials, or for personalizing instructional materials. So I think the districts that have moved quickly on this front are probably using those commercial apps. There are several hundred districts using Khanmigo from Khan Academy as a tutoring engine. That's probably the most interesting application to keep an eye on, particularly for upper elementary and middle grade learners. And then the last thing I'll say is that one implication of AI is that if you think about the adaptive mathematics and reading engines that schools have used for the last 20 years, a number of them just got quite a bit better because they incorporated generative AI. And so a new tool like Amira that was developed in 2017, a reading app based on predictive AI, just added generative AI, and it dramatically improved the text-to-voice and voice-to-text applications of that tutoring system. And so you may not think of that as a Gen AI app, but it is an app that has incorporated generative AI in a really productive way. And so that would be another category that leading districts are paying close attention to.
Thank you.
Tom, thank you again for your time. You hit on some key points here. I think that there are some profound implications for education and really civilization moving forward. I know that many districts are starting to really embark on this. And you mentioned some of the short-term, long-term impacts. I think this can be pretty overwhelming for districts. I think AI is here, and I'm not going to speak on behalf of the board, but I think we're certainly here to embrace it. I think my concern would be what guide rails do we set in place to ensure safety for staff and students as we move forward. And then I guess, I'm sure you're gonna have a conversation probably with Blake is what really are the next steps with, in terms of a plan, right? For AI at Winesburg Unified School District. So I would certainly look forward to learning more about that in the future.
President Martinez, if you'll permit me to, I left one category out that, give me 15 seconds. I spent yesterday with the folks at LAUSD and All Here, and they've recently in Los Angeles rolled out Ed, which is initially it's mostly just an attendance chatbot, but it's relatively quickly becoming what they think of as a whole child acceleration platform. So that means its primary application now is teachers and parents can chat about making sure a kid's at school, but it's moving towards engagement, and it's beginning to incorporate assessment data, particularly assessment data from Curriculum Associates and iReady. And so it's gone from attendance to engagement to achievement. And so that is a big neighboring district that has been quite aggressive, including in the grades 3 to 8. And so that would be another relevant pilot to keep an eye on.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you again. Blake, any?
No, I would just say thank you, Tom. I do have one question. When we start looking at, I know we talked with Matt and we're looking at developing our profiles of the learner. I'm sorry I had to step out for a second, so I apologize if I missed that, but we're gonna fold this into the digital literacy. I don't know if competency is the right word, but we're gonna fold this into the digital literacy frame of that study. But we're gonna get a jump on this because I know, it's moving so fast. We just want to get a jump on this a bit sooner. So I think that's sort of the charge we have right now. I guess it's not really a question, is it? It's more of a statement.
I think that's I think that's
I
exactly the right.
need more inflection in my voice.
No, that is I believe that's exactly the right response, that it's not urgent that you update your learner profile. It's important, but you can take another school year to have community conversations about the implications. Digital literacy is an urgent priority, and because it's affecting young people's lives right now. And I think we all can foresee its importance in this upcoming election. We're going to see things that we had never imagined before, and so this is an urgent priority. And so I do appreciate your comment that you can think about your response ranging from the next few months to the next few years. So this is a marathon, not a sprint, but digital literacy. You've made that important part of your strategic plan. I really appreciate that. I think it needs just a bit of an update to make sure that it's relevant to the newest applications.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate the time tonight. Look forward to, I guess we'll see each other in a couple of weeks.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Our second presentation is from the Weisbrand Ed Foundation, and it's with Elizabeth Cantor and Willis Chang. Welcome.
Can I just say too, I know that this process of going through teacher grant applications and so forth, I mean, everything you all do is really, it's a lot of hard work. But I know that this is detail-oriented work, and the committee does a really good job of vetting this and really bringing, I think, joy in a lot of cases to classrooms with the support that you give. So thank you very much for that. Really appreciate it. Good to see you all too.
Great. So we do have a slide. And we'll add a little bit to that. So basically, while we get to that, every year teachers have the opportunity to apply for an innovative grant. So it's basically to give the students kind of a chance to learn in an innovative way in their classroom. And this year, I believe it was $50,000 in grants that we granted. So each classroom is allowed a $1,000 grant, and each grade level can be allowed a $3,000 grant. So those are kind of the guidelines. And this year, can we go to the next? Is there one with some pictures on it? There we go. There we go. So there were also this year $7,000 in additional requests on top of that $50,000 that we granted, which we added to just a different funding avenue, since it was for drama and PE, which are things that WEF already does support. So you can kind of see the breakdown of all the schools and how many grants we were able to do. So this year there was a lot of requests for math manipulatives, since there were some math changes in the district. So we saw a lot of those, and we granted as many as we could. In some of those cases, we did partner with some of the PTAs so that we could get them in as many classrooms as we could. So you can see some pictures there. This particular picture is from the 4th grade at Aviation, the Resiliency Project, which is a really, really neat project. They learn about Jackie Robinson, and they're able to go to Dodger Stadium and get a special tour. It's very special. And next year, we're hoping that can be shared with Del Air also, with the 4th graders there. So that would be pretty exciting. So it could be a district-wide thing, but it did start as a teacher grant. And now will probably become something that hopefully happens every year. So I just wanted to say a couple things about the grants that kind of were extra innovative from each school. So we had, you can see in some of the pictures, if you go back one, you might be able to see it on the slides. So we went over the aviation one. This was aviation, the Resiliency Project. Del Air, they did, for the TKs, they did creation stations, which they asked for supplies to help the students learn storytelling and math and engineering, social skills, problem solving through play. So you can see some different manipulatives that they use for that. The shoes that you see there was a grant that was given to Da Vinci Design, where the kids created a shoe based on their culture. To show pride in their culture, they got to decorate shoes. We had a fun one at the middle school where they decorated t-shirts based on an algebra theme. So there was some, some neat ones in there. The preschool this year asked for a lot of items for dramatic play. So the kids could start learning more dramatic play, also some items to improve gross motor skills. So some of those things you can see there. And SLC did gardening. They had a gardening project. So you can see that gardening photo there. So if you have any questions, happy to answer. And at the end, they are asked to give photos. So that's some of the photos you see.
Great to see all the schools represented. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I wanted to just thank the Weisberg Ed Foundation for the partnership, for the support that you've provided to the teachers, and obviously the tremendous impact that you're making in our students. So thank you very much. Any comments or questions?
Just one
Yeah.
quick comment. I also like to thank WEF for the amazing rock around the block that hopefully we all just went to. And I know Blake was in the dunk tank. So thank you, Blake, for your service. And Rebecca. Getting around to it. Thank you both. But thank you, WEF, for everything you do for our community. It's wonderful to have you as an integral part of the district. And thank you for the grants that allow our teachers and our students to achieve more. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just echo the comments of my fellow board members. I love WEF. And I'm always happy to get in the dunk tank. Will text me and it's like, are you gonna do it again? I don't know why y'all don't get in. It's not that bad. And the high school students love to like relieve you. Like they barely even wanted me to get in this year.
I worked double shifts all day, every day to stay out of that.
But thank you so much for all you do to support the schools, to continue to help us provide that comprehensive music and arts education, and to provide these opportunities for innovative learning in the classroom that have grown and become bigger initiatives across the district. That's exactly what you guys, that it's fulfilling your mission and it helps us fulfill ours. So thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Blake?
Dunk tank's terrible.
The
dunk tank is terrible. It's terrible. But we do it, right? We do it.
All
All right.
volunteers at WEF too. Thank you all.
Yes.
All right, so are we ready to move on? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
the
we're
third
ready.
question.
Third presentation.
Eileen. We're on the
So.
presentation number 3.
Just AI.
Go back to us, Eileen.
I was doing my AI stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Sarah, right? Or-
I
Yeah,
think
sorry,
it's not actually me, but
I know, but you're gonna.
I'm
set it up for
glad.
us.
So tonight, we're so pleased to have Ms. Sarah Nitsos here tonight leading the charge. She has been coordinating arts in our district for several years, and tonight she's here to talk about, we do this every year. We come to the school board and we talk about all the work that's happened this year with our kids in the area of arts. So if I could just introduce Ms. Nitsos, come on up. I thought we were, I'm so sorry, I mixed up because I'm looking at the agenda and
No, it's supposed to be us, but we're a tough act to follow.
so I'm going first. I apologize. I'm glad to give you a math update right now. I know what's coming. It's going to be great, but not that this isn't. So I'm here tonight just to talk to you briefly, to provide a math update. Over the past few weeks, we have been releasing our teachers at grade levels, combining all schools together. So all of grade 1 from Holly Glen and from Del Air would meet together with our math specialist, Holly Compton. And we're addressing our very first question in the PLC process, our professional learning community process, which is what do we want all students to know and be able to do? And it's key that our teachers look at this in terms of next year as we bring in the new Eureka Squared textbook adoption. So in answering that question, the idea is to pull apart your essential standards. First, identify essential standards. Not that we don't teach them all, we do, but we have to prioritize our time. And so where do we dedicate that time, knowing our students and our needs? So we identify those standards, we unpack them, we identify, and you can see there on the bottom right, teachers are looking at a standard and circling the verbs and ideas within the standard. From there, you write what's called a learning target. And this is a shared clarity with the team. What is this standard actually asking us to teach? And you write learning targets. And actually, this has been going on for a long time in the middle school, where you have the statement on the board. So it's the students and the teacher both identify what's being taught in that period. They usually start with an I can statement. I can divide fractions, whatever.
Eileen, I'm going to stop for 1 second. So we got a little bit out of order here.
Yeah, I got thrown.
This was actually the arts update was supposed to be first. I just, for the sake of the agenda, I just want to say that the math update is down further. So I think we just brought the wrong presentation up on the screen. Just for the sake of the agenda and staying in order, we're going to have you do this whole presentation again. No, I'm just kidding. I would say, I just wanted for the sake of those following that we are a little bit out of order. We'll just get back in it here in a second.
And I'll just go quickly through this. Along with that work on the learning targets is our year-long scope and sequence developed with Eureka, looking at our first quarter. And then again, they had time to review some of our new materials that are going to be coming in. Our next steps, we have 2 days of professional development with the Eureka Squared publishers in August. We're also going to provide a setting or time next year for vertical articulation. I continually hear this from teachers, especially when they were looking at the standards, trying to identify where the kids are going next and what they're going to need. So we need to provide that time next year and also create those common assessments. That's time consumptive. We're going to really need time in our teaching collaborative time where our staff not only creates those assessments, but brings them back and talks about how those went with their kids. So that's what's going on all the way through June 10th. I believe the middle school is on June 10th, our last for our math release days. So glad to take any questions.
Thanks for that. Eileen, any comments or
Just want to
questions?
say thank you and really appreciate the time their teachers are spending and that we're creating that time for them as well to plan. Because that becomes invaluable to look at what that target is. So thank you for spearheading that.
Right.
for us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to introduce the arts.
Thank you.
I will say, I do want to say, publicly that yesterday we had, the benefit and the pleasure of being able to recognize Aiko Anglim as Teacher of the Year for the school district. You're here today. Well, and one thing she said in her speech is that, she is receiving this award on behalf of, the arts department, on behalf of all arts educators. And so we're joined here today with 2 other arts educators. And Sarah, I consider Sarah an arts educator as well, really, at the heart and the core. That, we have Piper and Toby, and, just when you think back 5 or 6 years at where our program was and where our music program was and where it is now, it's just amazing the work that you all do and being able to see Rock Around the Block and see the students play all different types of music together. It really is. It's a treasure. It's like one of the best days to be able to hear that. So thank you all. And I know today we get to kind of kick off with the LA Arts, County Arts update, joined by the team. So Sarah, I think you're going to kick it off, right?
I apologize for throwing the agenda out of order. We're going to start tonight with our Wiseburn Arts Update. Okay, next slide, please. I told you we were a tough act to follow.
So we're going to focus on three main things. We're going to do arts by the numbers, a little bit of data for you, our journey through the arts, and gratitude. Next slide, please. Just a little Wordle showing you all of the different elements of art that are present within our district, just to kind of get a visual picture. All right, next slide. So now our arts by the numbers. Our total enrollment as of this afternoon was 2,502 students. Of those 2,502 students, 1,544, which is 100% of every TK through fifth grade student, receives weekly music from Evelyn Park from Ms. Aiko Engblom. In our middle school, across the entire year, 459 students have taken art, 352 students have taken drama, and 370 have participated with Piper or Toby in orchestra, symphonic band, strings, intro to ukulele, concert band. And it's covered, but 185 students have worked on music and media. Coming up in a few board meetings, you'll be approving a measure to bring forth new iPads purchased by our LA Department of Arts and Culture grant to make sure that our students' technology is keeping pace with the industry standard. Next slide. Oh, there it is. In elementary, music is provided one time a week. In TK through 2, that is through WRF instruction with Ms. Engblom, our teacher of the year. 3rd through 5th grade receive further instruction in instruments, the ever popular 3rd grade recorder. 4th grade ukulele, gleefully showcased here by Mr. Toby Harwell. And 5th grade violin. All of that is provided by Miss Evelyn Park. Dance was added this year through our LA County Department of Arts and Culture. It has been embedded into PE 2 days a week. Coach Shackstad and her entire crew work together to take the PE standards and the dance standards and find the intersections and provide dance instruction to all of our students with PS Arts. We also had 2 days. We've had our first one so far, and you'll see that in a minute, and our second one coming up in June, where we have a special dance artist. That dance artist comes to every single PE lesson at every school for every grade and teaches them a cultural dance. I'll get into that in the next slide. We also provided a family arts or dance night at every single school site through PS Arts, and Holly Glenn and Aviation continue their facilitated art experiences provided by parent volunteers in the PTA. Next slide, please. So in all, in Wiseburn Unified School District, we have art, drama, theater production, orchestra, symphonic band, concert band, ukulele, and beginning strings, all offered at our middle school. These are provided by Deanna Ablisser, Toby Harwell, Noelle Stahl, and Miss Redmond. Art. This is produced by Miss Noelle Stahl's class. Students engage in both fine art, sculpture, and provided by WEF this last year, they received a grant and they're doing weaving. All of the materials and the instruments to do that weaving were provided by a WEF grant. So thank you, WEF. Next slide, please. Andy Desserrier brought us an opportunity that we used with Del Air with conjunction with the Northrop Grumman Foundation. It was called Wolf Trap. Wolf Trap is an experience where they integrate what the teacher is teaching, children's literature, and art. It's a hybrid of professional development as well as instruction for students. So the teaching artist met with each kindergarten teacher, talked about what they were learning, and really wove together the arts and children's literature to bring a full body experience for each of our kindergarten students. We're looking to grow this experience next year, and our arts grant was written to improve and expand this very experience. I'm going to say experience like 6 more times. Dance and PE. So our teachers, and you can see some of the backs of the teachers sitting right here, received instruction from PS Arts on how do you teach dance. Lauren Shackstad is the most amazing PE teacher I have ever seen in my entire life. She has become an amazing hip hop artist this year.
And she and her coaching team have taught the children hip hop numbers and really had them connect. They have found that some students that maybe weren't really interested in that PE activity really brightened up and all of a sudden were awake when it came to dancing. So we've really touched a lot of students' hearts in different ways. The first video we're going to show, which is the one on the far left with the small group of children, this was when we had a teaching artist teach Bhangra dance, which is dance from India.
And my favorite part is when we did the shovel thing. My favorite part is when we like this. My favorite part is when we celebrated.
Let's go to the middle video, which shows what our coaching staff has been teaching.
5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're doing a dance? And what do you like about it? My favorite part is the blade and the step clap that Coach Chris and Coach Jack did.
So we're having lots of fun and we're looking to continue this next year and bring back the teaching artist. We'll end the year with a hip hop artist and we have yet to discover what wonderful art experiences we'll have next year. Next slide, please.
Today we did Indian dance. My favorite part is when we did
That's horrible, but can we get to the next slide? All right, drama. At the middle school this year, the 6th grade produced a production. They also worked on lots of original one-acts. Many students wrote things that were submitted for national contests. They showcased their talents in multiple performances in writing and editing, and they worked together to prepare them for the high school drama that awaits them. That was all done by Miss Deanna Ablisser. Next slide, please. We just had so much fun at Rock Around the Block that we had to bring it back. Our teachers that Aiko and Evelyn did such an amazing job with our TK through 5th grade students, and at Rock Around the Block, our 2nd grade and our 5th grade were showcased. And it was really a wonderful experience to hear those violins and to hear such a good job on those violins. So we're just very, very proud of our elementary program and where it started and where it is. And that is thanks to all of our partners, especially Weth here in the room today. All right, next slide. Middle school music. Our middle school really brought it home this year. I saw people walking by stop and want to hear violins. And that is due to Toby and Piper's dedication to making sure that not only is the music instruction proper, but the repertoire that the students are providing in their performances match their abilities and really showcase their talents. So we're very pleased with all of the wonderful work that has gone into it. Next slide, please. Miss Park also does an after-school choir program. And it has been the will and desire of certain people in this room to have a glee club. And they wanted the choir to dance. So this year we made that dream come true. Hit it. We had a tap dancing choir. I will never forget when I handed that invoice over to Mr. Hasty and said, we're buying tap things. And he just said, sure, sounds great, Mrs. That number was choreographed by Miss Sabrina Nitzos. It was taught by myself as well as Miss Park. The students did an amazing job learning a very difficult tap number. Not everyone can do pick, heel, step while singing. So we're very, very pleased that that came out as good as it did. And Dr. Harbeck, you finally had your dancing choir. Finally, we are looking forward to our next installment of our Arts and Culture Grant. We have written it and submitted it, and now it is being reviewed. And as Wef knows, it's a very long process to review grants. We're hoping to hear back about where we fit in the picture in about June. We've usually gained from them about $15,000 to $20,000 that we match dollar for dollar here in Weisburg. Next slide. We'd like to thank all of our partners, our Weisburn School Board, for always being willing to play along and make sure that music and the arts is featured in every single one of our classrooms. We'd like to thank Cabinet for always being behind us, our site administrators and our teachers for not only just helping us, but being part of the process. We'd like to thank WEF. We'd like to thank the LA Department of Arts and Culture, PS Arts, Wolf Trap, and Northrop Grumman for all of their partnership. Next slide, please. But especially our teachers, some of whom are standing behind us, especially the distinguished Aiko Ingram, our I told her I'd say it at least once. They pour their hearts and souls into making sure that arts are featured and maintained in our district, and they do amazing work. Final slide, please. And with that, we'd like to thank all of you, some of whom are featured in this photo today. If you have any questions, we're here for you, but thank you.
And the holographic AI rendition of Toby was amazing. Thank you, Toby.
I think it's fair to say that the arts program is alive and thriving at Weisburn Unified School District. Doesn't happen without the leadership. And so thank you, Piper, Aiko, and Toby, and the other teachers that may not be here. Thank you, and obviously Sarah as well. It's amazing where the program is today. Because I remember having conversations of there was no program when I first was here. I'm not gonna say how long ago that was, and trying to then trickle it down to elementary, and now those numbers are amazing. I just have one question, but I want to open it up to any comments or questions from my rest of the colleagues, and I just want one question with you.
I just want to say thank you for that, all of that overview. When you put it all together like that, it is truly amazing what has been accomplished. So thank you for all of your hard work and the love that you pour into it. It's so obvious.
I already texted Aiko and told her congratulations, but I not tell it to you in public, which is amazing. All of you guys are. My favorite performance at the winter thing was the beginning of strings. That was incredible back in December.
Yeah.
And
Just one quick comment. I wanted to say thank you and just highlight, because it kind of went in passing. In that first slide, you had the statistic there that 100% of our TK5 students receive a music lessons every week. That is amazing. So I wanted to highlight that, because to your comments earlier, Nelson, where the program has come back, I know it's kind of in passing, but it's such an important statistic or highlight, and really more in actuality what's happening in the district. So thank you all. Thank you all for everything that you do. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Aiko's everywhere at once in order to her and Evelyn. They have to transport themselves with hyperspeed across the district to get to everything.
And the question I had, kind of along the numbers are amazing at the Weisburn Middle School. If there's anything limiting us from expanding that program, I know that obviously at middle school students pursue it because of interest, but if there's anything that is limiting us in terms of the program, please let us know, because this is truly amazing. So thank you, and I do want to make a shout out to all the partners. That this takes a village, right, to do something like this, and to all our partners, and obviously the Weisburn Ed Foundation. Thank you for everything you've done. A wonderful partnership. So thank you. Blake, do we have another presentation?
Well, we do. Last time, I think I kind of messed it up and we got out of order. So I am going to just scroll down. Oh, great. Yes, we actually have our school site update. See one of our fantastic math teachers there and Kiana. Just kidding. Kiana. No, Kiana. Hi, Kiana. Now you can introduce the presentation.
Yes.
You're welcome to stay.
Thank you. Congratulations.
But still genuinely are very appreciative to be here to spotlight on Wiseburn Middle School. Lots of wonderful things are happening there, including our arts, but tonight we'll focus on math and our student wellness. As I mentioned, we know we have a lot of great work happening in numerous departments. We're going to focus on math with Miss Brandy Garcia joining me. She is a 7th grade math teacher. I should say 8th grade as well. She teaches a period of 8th grade this year, and she's also our Guiding Coalition math leader. And then we'll talk about student wellness and safety. We understand the importance of that, not only for our whole district, but of course, in middle school, with the dynamic nature of middle school students, finding that connected place and making friends in a safe environment is really important. So those are the two that we'll highlight today. Next slide.
So good evening. I'm Miss Garcia. I teach 7th and 8th grade math, and I am thrilled to be here. A couple of things. I wish I brought an abacus. Maybe that would have livened it up a little bit. Maybe I could have taught you that. Don't know how to use it myself, but maybe that would have helped a little bit. So I definitely want to talk to you all about what we've been doing in our process with our math department. And I'm very, very thrilled to be here because I get to talk about my two passions, and I'm almost scared to talk about them because I do talk a lot. So Kiana said she's got my back and she's gonna watch that time. But my two passions of math and education come together, and that's why I'm here today. So the first thing that I wanted to mention about what's new, this past year we have partnered with Core Learning. What's really awesome about them is, number one, the math department loves them, and we love that we get to work with them. And some of the things that we've worked through, we've had 3 workshops so far. In the first workshop, we focus on student-centered goals and multiple representations. In the second workshop, we focus on perseverance and problem solving. And then in the third workshop, we focus on leveraging feedback and learning from mistakes. And one of the things that kind of settled in our minds, my partner teacher, Mr. Gomez, always says this, is what are your intentions? And I think that sometimes gets lost in education of what are your intentions. One of the other things that Core Learning has brought up is taking the focus off of the teacher and not so much what is the teacher doing, but what is the student thinking? And that's something that we've really focused on this year as we've been growing with Core Learning. We've had multiple math workshops. Kiana and our lead Tatiana, who is from Core Learning, have done multiple coaching sessions in which we go inside of the classroom, observe our teachers, and observe them and what our student-centered goals are. And I'm not going to read all of the student-centered goals because there are so many of them, but our student-centered goals focus on the 3 top criteria, which are students to self, student to peers, and then student to math content. And within those, there are different student-centered goals that we focus on. We've also talked with Core Learning about action plans to come and the future of the math department. And then one of the things that we just focused, and we actually just finished on our last TCT meeting, was an agreement on the 5E lesson plan, which I'm going to explain to you all right now. So for those of you who are not familiar with our 5E lesson plan, at the middle school, we follow these 5 E's: engage, explore, extend, explain, and evaluate. And I do notice there's some familiar faces at my back to school night or winter, so I know some of you are familiar with what this is. But all of our lessons, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, all revolve around these 5 things, or these 5 E's. We usually start with an engaged task. This is something that could be a small video. It could be me just putting a math problem up and saying, talk about it, or an information gap. Could be a notice and wonder. Going from there, we usually go to an explore task. And usually this is where I tell my students, this is not for you to get it right. This is for you to try. As long as you're trying, you're doing exactly what I want you to do. And that's really to encourage our students to start using those successful strategies that they should have in their file folders, as I like to call them, in their brains, and really connect it to those real world experiences. From there, we go into extend, in which we want them to communicate their ideas and really make that strong connection to those real world and lived experiences, and possibly connecting or comparing strategies. Explaining usually means we're making those solid connections, creating those notes, interacting with peers, and then we evaluate throughout the lesson. Evaluate isn't just testing. I think a lot of students and a lot of teachers have that misconception that evaluate is just a test at the end of the unit or a final or those types of things. But evaluation actually starts right away with the pre-assessment. Where are students learning? Where are the gaps? How can we support them further? So I do want to mention that this is something that we as a math department have not necessarily signed our name to, but these are the commitments that we have that we will involve in all 5 E's, and within them we'll have our student competencies embedded. What's coming up on May 20th, like Dr. Harbeck said, we are actually getting pulled out, so that is on Monday. And on Monday, what we're really focusing on is our vertical articulation. So we have been wonderfully blessed with having essential standards, and we've completed that. We've had that for a pretty long time. I would say about a year or 2, if I'm not mistaken. And we've had a really strong focus on what our essential standards are. Now, when COVID happened, we did realize that our students were not, or they had some gaps. So we did have to lower our standards a little bit to make sure they caught up. Now that we're seeing them progress a little bit more and continuing to grow, we want to make sure that our vertical articulation is just right. We want to make sure that coming in, and Dr. Compton or Holly Compton will be on there on Monday with us to represent 5th grade. She will go ahead and tell us what exactly are our essential standards. What are we teaching within those units, and what are our essential questions for our students, those I can statements that Dr. Harbeck mentioned before. So on Monday, we'll be discussing as a grade level all of our different units, from expressions and equations all the way to probability and statistics, what that looks like for 6th grade, how can we support 7th grade, how do we support 8th grade, and how do we make sure they're ready if they go into high school algebra 1, and then if they're ready for high school, how can we support that? We're really specifically looking at what does that progress look like for grade specific and what we want them to accomplish before they leave us at Weisburn Middle School. We want to make sure that all of our observations and feedback are tied to those student-centered goals I had mentioned before. We want to make sure that we're continually using that data for our PLC model to make sure that all of our routines are sticking and we're doing the best that we can.
Yeah. Thank you. Now I get the pleasure of presenting on student wellness and safety, which is directly tied to our assurances of student-centered and safety, not only the physical safety, but we know the social emotional safety of all of our students. Next slide, please. What's new? We want to start with, I'm really proud of Weisburn Middle School staff. This year, we expanded our community of respect and empathy team. We actually had 10 members on the team this year. That included myself, Ms. Hackett, our AP, a counselor, and then 7 teachers. What's really important to note is the 7 teachers represented all the grade levels as well as multiple departments. And when we talk about safety, it's important to recognize a 6th grader coming into middle school is going to have different needs in terms of that social emotional safety than maybe an 8th grader. And so you want the mixture of perspectives in the core team as we look at data, as we look at how students are responding to initiatives we have. We really want that diverse group of educators together to analyze that. Additionally, we have a mentor program called WEB, where everybody belongs. That's our 8th grade mentor program that brings in our 6th graders and creates a place that is welcoming and maybe takes down the fear of middle school, which I think a lot of incoming 6th graders very naturally have. So our 8th grade mentors partner with 6th graders throughout the year. They do check-ins and celebrations. They go into classes to celebrate students. And they also have picnics with the 6th graders. They create arts and crafts activities. They are partnering with the teachers, 6th grade teachers. If we need to talk to a student, who would you like us to talk to? Who might need that extra connection? And so it's a really important program, and they've expanded more events this year. As we know, 6th graders are coming in with sometimes misconceptions of middle school. And so how do we break down those barriers? And also, maybe 8th graders won't seem as scary in middle school if you already know them and you've met them and you've played games with them before even entering middle school. Additionally, we've had mental health services that have expanded. Thank you, Dr. Ingram. I know you helped bring Hazel Health to us, which is a telehealth option. It offers short-term counseling. It's more of a 6 to 8 week commitment. Families have the flexibility of doing that during school hours. So we set that up in our office or at home. So again, another branch of the mental health side that we've been able to offer for more students to receive counseling services. Our lunch bunch is organized by counseling interns. We know not all students want to be outside in the mix at lunch. It's super dynamic. If you're ever bored, you're welcome to come by at lunch and see it. But we know some kids might want a quieter spot, a place to read, a place to play games. And so our counseling interns were able to launch our lunch bunch this year. So for students that might want that quieter connection, they have a place to go. And then also to have a mental health person there, a counselor is always a nice touch because they're also catching if there's any social emotional or connection with peers that are maybe some struggles, they can help identify that and we can reach out to those students. Our PTSA has been it's okay, I'll still talk. Our PTSA has been very into collaboration and community with and engagement there. And so they've put on coffee with caretakers and parents monthly. Middle school can be very lonely for parents. You don't have play dates anymore at the parks where you connect with other parents. And I know it seems silly when you say it, but it does feel lonely as your students begin to want more independence. So by hosting these monthly coffees, we bring parents together. They don't feel alone. What an issue might be like, I can't believe I'm suffering with this. My kid's sad when they come home about this test grade. No, 20 other parents feel the same way. So let's connect. And we also bring in staff to connect to teachers. So tell teachers stories, but also Dr. Ingram was a guest. We've had other district personnel there, our own counselors, teacher stories. And so again, building that connection for families with our staff so that we can see, we have a safe place here and we have a place we want you to participate in. What's next? As you've heard many times, probably in front of the board, we're very excited for Capturing Kids' Hearts to come. We love that there's going to be a system that has strategies to connect, particularly for the secondary education grade levels. Sometimes they get left out middle school and high school. So I love that Capturing Kids' Hearts is really perfect for us as well. We're expanding ways to celebrate students. Contrary to people believe, middle schoolers still love to be recognized. They still want stickers, they still want certificates, they want to win raffles. And so how are we creatively recognizing them for the good things they do and not always focusing on correcting behaviors? So we've thought of tardy sweepstakes. So if you're not tardy, instead of tardy sweeps at schools, we're going to celebrate that and do random raffles for attendance and just play into their silliness, but also they need to be recognized. And so how are we doing that in the middle school level? We're going to have more group counseling. That's really a goal to continue to serve more students. And we know that we do that with more group counseling. So we're expanding that. And then students that are involved in things after school feel connected. So we're looking at additional ways to explore after school activities, bring back chess club. Looking at some of our students have submitted lovely club ideas to us. So we're looking at those. But we know invested kids that are busy after school can also stay out of trouble, but also make new friends and connections. So that's what we're planning to do next in terms of student wellness and safety. Might have gone over the minutes, but I just want to say that's our presentation and we're open for any questions you might have. And thank you again for having us.
Thank you. Any comments, questions?
Thank you.
And, one passion of mine for years has been focused on student learning and in our assurances is student-centered learning, right? Student-centered. And you guys want our teachers to be fully engaged and happy, but this is about learning for the kids. And thank you for that focus. Appreciate it.
Future middle school parent, excited. Opportunities for the kids to be connected while they're being surly preteens.
And as a current middle school parent, I live this. I think that seeing it all there is perfect, but I have a kid that is happy to go to school and learning so much. So, yeah, I definitely agree with everything that I see there and living it. So, very excited.
Yeah, I'm Ms. Garcia. Thank you for the presentation. Ms. Garcia, I love your passion on the math and the five E's. Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's next, Blake? Is it from the board now?
Or is it the math update?
It's not.
I couldn't help myself. Yes, it is from the board, yes.
All right. Roger, we'll start with you.
Okay, thank you. I have a few of items to touch base on.
Okay.
First one I would like to share, I should say, is we live very close here to LAX, LAWA, LA World Airports. The airport is in the middle of a $30 billion construction program. Ever since I've known LAX, they've always been in construction, and they always will be. So one thing that I've recently learned through our professional work is I attended an event where part of LAWA's capital improvement program, they are going to be or require a lot of the vendors and companies that are going to be working on those programs to actually sponsor school districts in the area. We are right there. We are literally in what they call the local impact zone. So the new contracts actually will have requirements from the vendors to provide sponsorships to students. So I really look forward to working with LAX, LAWA, but also our partners at Da Vinci to see how we can capture some of those internships and how we also extend those into whether that's grants, because some of our students in K-8, right, they're not of age for an internship yet, but there will likely be other ways of sponsoring where those companies can contribute. So I look forward to reaching out to LAWA and seeing how we can best provide opportunities for our students. Another item I wanted to share is in April, on the 26th, we held a special board meeting with members here of the board. I really want to thank my colleagues for their openness and sharing information about their backgrounds, their past, but also like their vision and leadership that's to come. I really think that workshop for us in a planning session, similar to what we talked about for professional development days for our teachers and staff, it's also important for us to get together and do those things and share our thoughts and kind of where we think we're headed to try to create some alignment as well, have some communication. I really respect all of my members and colleagues here on the board. So I just wanted to thank everybody for participating in that so genuinely. So thank you for that. And most recently, we also, Nelson and I, with Blake and Wendy and Juan, we had an opportunity to go up to San Jose and visit the Cisco plant. Well, it's not really a plant, it's an unbelievable office. It's a campus. And it is truly amazing to see what's already in place with technology and communications. And I know an integral part of this was our bond program manager in NAS, and also Cherie attended with us. It was really eye-opening to see what's available already for technology and AI and what's already in use. I'm really looking forward to see with our infrastructure technology program, what components we can bring to our school district to really improve the quality, and not necessarily quality in a negative way, but what's available, right? There are just so many different tools of collaboration that quite frankly, I didn't even know existed. So it really opens our eyes by going outside of our local area, local comfort zone to see and learn as well as what's available. So I'm really looking forward to that, the technology and those projects coming forward. So thank you for setting up that meeting, Dr. Silvers. I think for me, it was incredibly valuable to attend. So thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Rebecca.
Thank you. I already was going to say congratulations to WEF on a wonderful wraparound bond. We kind of did that, moved on from that, but congratulations. I'm really grateful to live in and serve a community that has embraced these values, including race equity and, making sure that the arts are in our schools, that we are protecting all of our students, LGBTQ plus and beyond, supporting the mental health and social emotional learning of all of our students and generally providing that comprehensive public education to our thousands of students across the district. I'm thrilled that we are continuing to honor Pride Month, looking forward to adopting that resolution on our agenda tonight. And I also wanted to note in advance of the meeting of the core team, Keanu mentioned the core team at the middle school, but the district-wide team is going to be meeting on May 23rd, and there's a survey that is out there currently in the community that's seeking input as part of our diversity, equity, and inclusion planning for the coming year. So please go on the social media pages of the district and fill that out. The survey closes on, I believe, the 21st of May. And really looking forward to continuing to work with our administration and staff, my fellow board members, and the community to continue to ensure that we are providing that comprehensive public education that acknowledges and embraces our shared values and history, safety, well-being for all of our students, and encouraging greater acceptance and support for all of our youth, including those who are perceived to be LGBTQ+. Doing that will make our communities, schools, and other settings safer, better places for everyone. And as the mom of 2 elementary kids, I know firsthand how critical it is to provide that kind of school culture that is nurturing and safe for everyone. A school culture that values each child for who they are and acknowledges their differences and similarities. And I'm looking forward to continuing to work for those outcomes. So that's mine.
Thank you, Rebecca. Michelle.
Yeah, so I'm quickly finding out that the perk of this job is getting to attend all the amazing events district-wide, Rock Around the Block, you know, really, really close to my heart. So thank you for allowing me to continue in that role. But I got to attend the Holly Glen open house, and that was amazing to be able to walk in through all those classrooms and just see the hard work and all the love that gets poured in. And when you walk in, not as a parent and not as a student, it takes on something very different. And you can see the pride that these teachers take in their classrooms and the pride that they take in the work that they've done with these kids. And it was definitely apparent in every single classroom that I went through. So that was really fun. The other thing that I got to attend was the teacher appreciation celebration that we had. Was that yesterday? That was yesterday. Last week. But that was the first one that I've ever attended for Wise-Burn, and Blake said it the best. I think that the energy that was in that room was so heartwarming, and it was a place definitely that I could feel that the teachers loved being here and they loved celebrating each other, and it was just a really fun event. And so I was so happy to be able to join. I ran over. But again, it's probably something that I'm always going to want to be, and being able to acknowledge all the years of service and just be in awe. Did you all know that there was someone that served 50 years in this district? That blew me away, because that is amazing. And it's just a tribute to what this school district does. At one point in my career, I did come in for a job and at the district office, and I don't know if I've shared the story with you, but I did come in and they said, "I'm sorry, there just isn't a lot of turnover. There is no jobs here. There are no jobs for you. There is just no turnover. Teachers love it here." And I went, "Okay, this is where my kids are going." And so again, all of these just add up to what we already know. And so thank you for having those events and allowing me to be a part of it.
Thank you, Michelle. Yeah.
Like Michelle, got to attend the staff appreciation yesterday. It was beautiful to see the energy and the positivity and the love for each other. And similarly, was pleased to attend Del Aire's open house, and to see all the students, particularly in the middle school or even in high school, coming back to see their teachers and the parents giving so much support to the teachers. Just beautiful to see that, and really warms your heart and makes you really glad we do what we do to see that. In one of my roles as the representative for our district for the local classroom funding authority, and serving as the vice chair currently, and that's a joint effort with Hawthorne, Lawndale Elementary, Lennox, Wise-Burn, of course us, and Centinel Valley. We collectively work together and on Measure CL, which adds significant resources to our districts, all of our districts. I do want to shout out the representatives, it's inspiring to see people that are passionate, not only in our district, of course, but Dr. Eugene Crank, Ann Phillips, Dr. Angela Fajardo, and Gloria Ramos, the representatives from each of the districts I mentioned, all beautiful people making contributions and in it for the right reasons. So fun to be connected with them. The relevant thing to share from that conversation is we do have a ballot measure upcoming in November on a advisory vote on Measure CL continuing and the good things it does for us. I did want us to know that's going to have a fiscal impact on us as to the election costs. It's about $310,000 for all the districts combined. Our estimated contribution about $42,000, which is about 2% of the budget. So it's not a huge hit, but that's going to be coming, and want to give you a heads up on that. And good work being done there. I did have a question for Dr. Silvers. Maybe you can talk about this. I think there's been some conversation about Conmigo that Tom mentioned in his presentation. I don't know where we are on that, if it's appropriate yet, but maybe you can make a comment on that.
So I know it's gone somewhere. Sarah, you may be able to give a more accurate update. I know thanks to Matt. Why don't you share? I'm going to ruin your thunder, I think.
You didn't know you had thunder, Sarah.
Oh, she did. No, sure she
So Dr. Silvers put us in touch with Dr. Wonder, who put me in touch with Steve Wallace, and Steve Wallace is spearheading the Conmingo account. So I'm signed up as a leader, as well as Kiana is signed up as a leader, and we've already, unbeknownst to her, who signed up Brandy as a leader on the Conmingo account. So that will be launching in the fall, and we're working together with Steve to put together some professional development opportunities so our teachers can really understand what they have, because it's a really cool platform. I've had a chance to dig into it, where the students are presented with questions, and when they don't quite understand it, instead of just going, here's a video, watch it, the little chat bot shows up and says, oh, it looks like you added a 1 when you were supposed to subtract a 1. Let's try it again. Different problem. If they're still getting it wrong, it might go back to a video, or it might go back to a smaller problem or a harder problem. But what's really neat is that it learns and it remembers. And when a child may encounter, maybe they're having trouble with fractions, and they encounter a problem with fractions later on, it will say, remember, the denominator's on the bottom. So you have to make sure the denominators match to help prompt the child so that they can always find success. So we are on our way to making that a reality very soon.
Very exciting. Thanks. And then I do have one last comment. Our staff, I'm so glad we have staff appreciation, because our staff is vital, right? Our teachers are vital in particular. And honoring our history and our heritage is also vital. And a number of teachers approached me from Del Air and noted that there is a number of things in the library that they have contributed to, that teacher funds went to. One is the Wanda Anza School, a place where everyone is someone special, Helen Bell's quote. And this was something that, it's my understanding, was brought to my attention, was paid for by teachers and their funds. I do think, and would like to, and I speak only for myself, but I will put this up perhaps for further conversation, or maybe not, that we continue to honor this and not overtake it when we do the modernization. That we continue to honor this, as well as the Helen Bell Library, and finally the art painting as you enter the school, as honoring memories of our past that we continue to honor as we renovate and modernize, but not lose, as they were important history to us. So that would be my ask of our modernization, that we honor that history and not replace it.
Thank you, Neil. Well, this group here covered my comments. They stole my thunder, literally. So I just wanted to say, it's an honor to be a part of this governing board. So thank you, each and every one of you. And, I really appreciate serving with each and every one of you. And then just tonight, if you look at the board meeting tonight, the topics that we covered, amazing things that we're doing. Like I said, with the music and arts program, with other programs, we never become complacent. We're looking to improve and work on and improve the program offerings to our students. And third of all, we're not afraid to take on the new, right? I mean, you heard the conversation about AI and what that is going to mean in the future. So I just want to thank the staff and the entire team, everything that you guys are doing. It's just an honor to be a part of this district. So thank you, and that's it for me. Blake.
We are moving on to math update.
I said we had one more. I had one more joke in me. We got to it. Finally, the agenda, although
We did the presentation 15 minutes ago. So just for the record, we were out of place with the math updates. We're skipping that now and moving on to district leadership reports. We're gonna have a special education update. Looking at the program costs, what constitutes the program. I know we're gonna look at historical, some longitudinal data as well. Really to help us set the stage for now and look for planning, for future planning. So Jason and Peggy, I think are kind of co-presenting this presentation.
And then we'll have the math presentation.
And then the math.
The math presentation. Give a. No, oh, I have animation. One. It's fun. There we go. We don't have music. I'm sorry. I would sing, but.
I did want to give some updates too about, before we get started on the May revise. The news is out. I had some notes here. The biggest thing that impacts us is our COLA. Second interim, we had a 0.76 COLA. We dropped from 3%. That was a significant hit. We've talked about that a little bit. As of May revise, there's talk, it's not official, SSC, or, they haven't made it on the dartboard yet, but we're looking at a 1.07% COLA. What does that mean to us? It bumps us up about 80,000, over this year, next year, depending on enrollment, 88, things like that. So it's not, it's a move in the right direction. The problem with this that people are complaining about is, as you'll see these contracts coming through and looking at the uplift on the contracts, the increases, they're a little more than 1.07%. So I've been working hard with the contract negotiations as we get into the new year, just to be like, hey, we're only getting 1.1%. So you guys are asking for 8, 7, 6%. Can we bring this down a bit? Doesn't always work, but it's something I know a lot of districts are using right now. And the main problem there is that, COLA or inflation is outpacing our COLA, and CPI is outpacing our COLA. So we just got to keep that in mind. The other big thing, it's not a huge thing. What is a huge thing? We have no cuts. That was another one. We're not going to get any furloughs as of now or clawbacks of money. LREBG, Learning Recovery, Emergency Block Grant, there'll be some changes on that. They did delay some of those changes. One was if we didn't spend certain money by July 1st of 2024, we had to do a self-assessment of our programs to determine how we're going to spend the money. They deferred that from what I've heard right now. Again, nothing's official to 2025, and they'll be looking at if you have money then. The other piece of that going into next year, we would have to really align that LREBG to the LCAP. It pretty much already is because, with our priorities and everything else we're doing, I don't see that as a huge lift, but those are some slight changes if they come up that you'd have to, now you have some knowledge of. Let me see. I think, the other thing too, just some big contracts coming up to the next board meeting. We're going to bring back the crossing guard contract. Again, there's 3 crossing guards we will have everywhere except for Del Air. Del Air has that county crossing guard. So just, be aware that will be coming. And then we have the nutrition contract. So that contract will be coming up, and that is pending CDE approval, but we'll need your approval. CD has vetted it. We've done all the procurement process, and I'll have that in the board item for you guys to review. I will try. I don't know if I can get food there for next Thursday. We had one bidder, so it's it's not like we're gonna have a big cook-off with our different people. So just want to give you a heads up on that contract. The other thing about that contract is it is big and it's a lot of money, but we get reimbursed for all those meals we served. Okay.
100%.
Yes, essentially. Well, yes. Because if we don't get reimbursed, people pay for those meals because all our meals are free to the students.
Yes.
Okay. Are we ready for? We're gonna move on. Now we're gonna do the special education. Sorry, she thought she was ready for the talk.
Are you going to give us a May revise official update?
I can. I wanted to wait till we get the dartboard or it becomes more official, so I can definitely do that.
There are some questions about Prop 98 and some juggling.
Yeah, we're in that test 1, and there's been some discussion about that, what that means. Governor Newsom's getting accused of manipulation a little bit of the test 1. So he's saying, think about it, you have like these tiers of stopgaps. So we've gotten to this point where we have to get into this next emergency poll, if you will. But he's kind of changing that bucket a little bit. And so it gets really complicated really quick. And so that's been the problem. Like right now we are statewide, we're pulling that first emergency switch. And so, yeah, I can definitely bring that back. I think June 12th would be a good time possibly, or before that, because we just have, I know board meeting next week is a little long for the.
Budget.
I do it next week.
Sorry.
Okay.
The shortfall is a little less now, right, than what was, than what was a few months ago when you and I, when all three of us went to.
Yes,
Orlando.
shortfall's less.
Yeah,
Yeah, significant.
significantly less. Okay.
Still not good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still not good.
So we'll get started. I'm gonna.
Now I'll sing.
Okay, so the purpose of this presentation, we're going to go over the special education financials. We're going to look at the current SIPED numbers and the staffing as far as contract staffing. The other piece of that is looking at historical financial trends. We're going to go all the way back to about 2018-19. So you'll see some of those pieces. We'll look at the current year comparison. I've set some of these items up, much like I do with the second interim and first interim reports. And then of course, get to the recommendations and next steps, and we'll talk about that. So first, I want to be clear what these numbers represent. That's what we call census day enrollment. So you pull the numbers, I think it's the first Wednesday of October. And so that would be our SPED enrollment when you pull that number. That is a snapshot number. So when Peggy gets to her slide, it will be a bit different. I just want to be clear so you'll see more because she's showing like total students in the program as when she's pulled them from that date. But this would come usually this year, I think it was October 4th or something, we pull that snapshot number. So this will show you over a historical trend. And I can obviously show you where the change is. So we were pretty, from 301 to 315 of SPED students that were in Wiseburn Unified, 1819, 1920. Then we went back down from 315 to 309. And then we stay almost the same 21, 22, but keep in mind 2021, I'm going to have that theme of the pandemic. And then as we get to 21, 22, we're returning and then we see this increase. And it's about 31 students increase. And I want to say that was roughly, it was about 10% right there increase right there. So of our students. Now that's not 10% of the population compared to the school, but we had a 10% increase in SPED students from the previous year of 31. So, and this is from that snapshot data. And if we go into that next year, we see that 28. So this obviously is going to have significant impacts on programming and budget in general. Does anybody have questions about that?
The last presentation a couple weeks ago, that 369 number was 402.
Mhm. So we took this number and we wanted the snapshot number. We had the other number and I felt it wasn't aligned. The other number pulls the current enrollment number because as of today, there's about 402 students in. So what I did is I wanted to make sure we're comparing apples to apples here. And so what I'm showing you is that snapshot from October for each year. So for 23-24, the first Wednesday of October, we had 369 special ed students. That 402, or where we're getting to, that's what we have as of today. I think it went up even.
Is that P1 or is that you're talking about?
I'm talking, this is a census number. So yeah. So that's when we pulled.
It's possible that the 24-25 census number will be higher.
Dramatic.
Correct. And so here's one thing to consider. We always start off, we have students exit, we have some students enter, but we have students that get identified throughout the process. So typically, I mean, it's just always, we're going to have an increase from beginning to end of year as students get identified, especially in an elementary school district. So
That is a significant increase from 369 to 400 something.
yes, it is. Yes. Okay. Let me make sure. Okay, go ahead.
So I'm revisiting this slide. At the October presentation, I presented this slide and without, of course, the column that is from April 15th. So at that time, the count was 10, 26, 23, and this would be numbers of students by disability in special education, Wiseburn, at the total. And you can see the change over the year from that point in time to April 15th. And we went from, and you could see the different changes in the disability counts. Are there any questions on this slide? Okay, thank you.
Is that, I guess I just have a question about the increase in the categories that, I mean, it looks like they were increases generally overall in the things, but those two categories that have the largest increase, is that something that we're seeing in other districts, or is that something that is like, do we know whether that, how we compare to that in terms of that?
I don't know for sure with autism.
Mhm.
Autism tends to be a larger group in general. I mean, I do know that to be the case in general for everyone. But speech and language, you could attribute that increase to, unidentified kids that came in from TKK and preschool, and the numbers have grown. And that's a typical place where we start off with the younger kids having eligibility in speech and language. So I'm not surprised to see that increase at this throughout the year like that. Autism, that's a pretty big jump, I think. But I don't know the answer.
Okay.
Ms. Hamburg.
So I would say anecdotally, just from the, SELPA, having had a conversation at the SELPA level, I know they are, I can only say it anecdotally that yes, there are having major increases in autism at school districts in the South Bay. Whether it's that number, I don't know.
And this is the primary eligibility category, right?
Correct.
Not any of the
Right.
secondary ones, right?
So, Megan, from the previous slide, obviously, if you look at the 21-22 year to the 23-24, there's been a significant increase just in those. We've seen an increase from 18 to where we're at today, but specifically, which may speak to the aftermath of the pandemic, right? In that significant increase from 21 through 24, is that all, because the following slide shows the two areas that Rebecca just highlighted, would 21-22 year and 22-23 year reflect the same increase in those two categories, autism, and is that your main areas?
Potentially, yes. Usually our largest categories would be specific learning disability, which is right above speech and language impairment, and autism. And of course, speech and language is always the biggest one.
And are we seeing them are we diagnosing this at a very young age, at kindergarten or first grade when they're coming in?
Like autism?
Either of these categories?
Yes.
Both of those categories?
Yes.
So it's early on?
It's early.
Okay.
We usually, you find the kids when they're little, and you see the signs, and you go ahead and assess, and it's typically, we try to get them at preschool. Hopefully we get them through regional center. We get them when they're 3. This year we've had a few come to us when they're in kindergarten and they haven't yet been identified, more than I've seen in other years. It's just kind of a trend I've seen this year, maybe 10 to 12. So that's quite a lot.
And we've had an increase we have more TK students this year too, so it's not surprising, I don't think, that we see the higher speech and language if we have more kids at that age, right?
The numbers are going to change too when you look at preschool numbers over the years versus kindergarten. So that's going to just move from having those chunks of numbers in preschool to be now in TKK.
Right.
Because you're right, because the kids are starting school earlier in TK.
Yeah.
And this is everywhere. This is, as to the SELPA comment, every district's experiencing this.
Some more than others, but yes.
But we'll see the numbers in a little bit. Yeah. The dollars.
Right. Dr. Hasty has the numbers from the other districts, correct. Okay, so this is the per school numbers of students in special education, along with how many are at each grade level. And this of course was from April of this year. And you can see I'd like to point out 5th grade. Thank you. You knew where I was going, whoever was pointing that. So we have 41 students at the 5th grade, and that is what we have matriculating up to the middle school. And if you look at the 8th grade, we're losing 32. So we're losing some, but we're gaining quite a big chunk. We've had this large bubble that's been coming up since preschool, and now they're moving into the 6th grade. And we've been ready. We've been watching this bubble move up. So just wanted to point that out.
Actually, one thing.
Yes.
Why is there such a difference from Holly Glenn to aviation? Is aviation, are those, I'm seeing like a difference of 10. Is that as a result of new students that maybe didn't attend Holly Glenn? Do you understand the question or?
No.
The total 77 Holly Glen
And 87.
and 87. I
Um,
would think it would be pretty close, kind of like you just described with aviation and the Weisberg Middle School, although you get some from Del Air.
we just had a lot of kids in preschool, that whatever, 5 or 6 years ago, that moved up through the years. And so now they're all fifth graders, I guess is what I,
It's that bubble.
There's a bubble in
It's
the
a
fifth
big
grade,
bubble.
which accounts for
Yeah, look at-
the higher numbers of aviation.
yeah, of course, of course.
Well, and again, this is gonna attach to another board item. I want to make sure, if we're gonna use developer fees for furniture, because we're having an increased enrollment in a program. So just remember when you see that, that's for that Verco because we have to open up another classroom for special education at Weisberg Middle School because of this bubble that's coming through.
And actually, I mean, I have a question. I don't know if you want to wait till that. I have a question about that in particular, but I want you to get through this presentation first.
Okay, so any more questions on this one?
No, just that there's gonna be double the number of sixth graders that you have this year that have special education needs.
Yeah, okay.
That's a big difference.
So this is last year's. These are, it's the same information, not same information, but it's the same premise. Last year at June. So this is at the end of the school year, mind you. So the previous slide was April 2023. This slide was at the end of the school year in June. It's funny because the total is the same. It's 402. We ended the year last year at 402. We moved on, 27 eighth graders. And went back down to whatever, kids move in, kids move out over the summer, the numbers fluid, every day things change. So we started off at that 360 something number that we had at that census date. I don't have that in my head, my apologies. But the numbers I anticipate are 402 that we were at in April will go up a little bit higher by the end of June this year. So we will end the year at a higher number than we did last year. That's just my
And you can see
estimation.
that bubble.
And you can see the bubble in the fourth
Not
grade.
That many.
Yep.
It's like the fourth graders.
The fourth grade
that have
bubble is
fifth graders.
57.
There's, yeah.
Yep,
It's still-
yep.
But it went like, even in that bubble, it went from 36 to 41. Or am I missing something? It went from,
It increased. I mean,
It
there's a
increased.
number, there's
So-
more students this year than last year.
Are you talking about the fourth grade versus?
Yeah.
fifth
yeah,
grade?
so the fourth grade versus the fifth grade, it went up from 36 to 41. I mean, you look at that, that's almost 10%. or
We
well,
identified more
10%
kids,
increase,
right?
Right, so we're also classifying more kids like at a fourth grade level or third grade level.
Right.
Okay.
Sometimes they move in and we get new kids that have moved in with an IEP, perhaps.
Move in, move out.
Okay.
Talk a little bit about
Yes, don't want to talk about this one. So we have in the one column, you see the school years on that far left column. And the 23-24, in October, we had about 13 non-public agency, one-on-one behavior aids. And 5 that were staffing agency. So that's different, right? So the staffing agency, obviously I don't have to explain to you what a staffing agency is. They just provide us the employees. So these behavior aids are a behavior aid with a BCBA who supervises them. That's part of like a little package there. So when you see the next row, 23-24, as of April, we didn't increase the one-to-one behavior aids, but we did increase basically one-on-one aids that we got through a staffing agency, registered behavior technicians, who are similar to those non-public agency one-to-one aids. Now that we have a district BCBA, we can hire this RBT title, this job, and our BCBA can supervise them. It gives us a lot more ability to kind of control things a little bit more. We can manage the program differently. He has more hands-on in the day-to-day goings on with the student and kind of the data collection. And I think I'm not trying to disparage the non-public agencies at all, because they're very, very, we have a good relationship with them, but it's a way for the district to get a little bit more control on situations when we're able to have either in a staffing agency or in the ideal world, our own employees being able to manage that. So we unfortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately, the number increase, and that's of course a cost, but we did have an increased need at the school level for kids that needed one-to-one behavioral aids.
Is there a cost difference between the NPA and the staffing agency?
I'll speak to that. Yes, actually, I was one thing I was gonna.
Employed.
speak to. Just to give you an idea, our Soliant, they're about $50 an hour, but just Soliant alone for 5 aides is about 30,000 a month. However, if you go to like our, I want to say the MPA, for 12 students, let me see here. I mean, we're doing about 66,000. We also have another one, Epic Staffing, that's about 51,000 a month. But yeah, usually the one-on-ones, not the RBTs, are definitely more expensive by a couple thousand. Overall, though, just looking at these numbers to get an idea about monthly costs for those 26 total, we're looking at least, I mean, it's about 100,000 plus. It fluctuates depending on how many hours, but 100,000 plus each month. So keep that in mind. But the more we can eventually hire our own staff, that will be a cost savings over time. Yes.
So this is a balancing act between trying to give them all the supports we can, being able to afford this, giving the teachers the supports we can. Have we been able to hire everyone we're trying to hire in this?
So
RTB?
Dr. Dool's done a great job. So this is the plan. We had to get a job description for our registered behavior technician, because they have, it's a different job description. So that was a big step, and we just got that. It's going through the extend process, got approved. So the next step then is, hopefully we're going to be able to start hiring some of these. However, this is a big need throughout LA County, throughout California for that, especially that specific job. So I just want to assure you, we'll be making every effort, between that and getting the BCBA. We have now built the house to do this, but now we got to start filling it with the people. So that is going to be a challenge, but we're going to be doing it or trying. Okay. Yes, this is just a cheat sheet for you. I want to make sure, because I always, contribution, everybody's always trying to remember contribution. I use metaphors as much as I can. When you see the contribution on the other slides, remember, we're taking from unrestricted general fund to restricted. Why? Because restricted money cannot go negative, right? So if I get $10, or let's just say $100 from for AB 602, which is the state funding for special ed, I get $100, but I spend $150. I can't let that sit -50. I got to pull from unrestricted at $50 to make it zero. Okay, so that's just how contribution works. It's not a bad thing, and we'll get to more of that. It's not the worst thing, but it is something we have to watch, because when it's increasing, it does have an impact on our budget.
Just the encroachment on our budget.
Yes.
Our general fund, and that's material, as we'll see.
Correct. So this one is this slide. Let me the top line that is our expenditures. So hopefully everybody can see that. And I just kind of want to take us through that. Let me see what my next arrow is. Okay, so let's just go through what these are. So you'll see the expenditures, and you can also follow down that middle on the table if you don't like the line. But we started in 1819. We were at about 4.5 million in expenditures. And as we went along, you see 2021 hit, expenditures went down slightly. We all probably know the reason why. We closed, we didn't, do as much, but we were still spending money, obviously. We returned 21-22, and between 2021 and 21-22, you start seeing that increase. And then, of course, you see a major increase between 21-22 and 22-23. And so that's where you see we go from 5 million to almost 7 million going into 22-23. And so that's the expenditure line. And this is what is interesting about this. And we can assert that we did get pandemic funding. And so now we have something odd, because this dark line, which is a contribution that I just mentioned, for the first time probably ever, you see it goes under the revenue line. And again, just because we did get money, and I'll show you another slide after this, whereas our expenses went down, our revenue stayed, there. We didn't have to contribute as much. We got extra pandemic money. So you see this, reversal between contribution and revenues. And of course, as we return 21-22, that black line, the contribution starts going back up again. However, the revenues are being left behind, because they're just slightly going up. We aren't getting that pandemic money. We're just kind of having a slight increase of revenue. Does anybody have a question about this slide? Just want to make sure you understand the story it's telling.
Just, if I may.
Yes.
23-24, the contribution, what encroachment makes more sense to me of what it's taking from our general fund, is pushing $5 million.
Sure.
And as we just talked about, these numbers are likely to go up, which means we're going to get very close to $5 million.
Yep. Yes.
Wow.
So Jason, if I'm looking again, I'm just focused on 21 through 24.
Yep.
we saw a 22% increase in special ed, in the previous slides, right?
Yep.
When it comes to the financial expenditure, I did not take revenue into account because it's pretty minor. We're seeing a 47% increase in, is that? would that be
Close. I
correct?
mean, for our increase in sped was 18% between that time with, from that 18 total percent with the 28 and the 30 or whatever you saw. But yes, we did have a 1 year, almost 40% increase in our expenditures. I did, yeah.
I'm not doing, all I'm doing.
No, you're right.
All I'm doing
That's
is taking
absolutely right.
7.4 and subtracting.
I ran that number and you're right.
And
It's in the 40s.
it just, you can see that it doesn't translate directly.
Yeah,
It's not a
yeah.
direct correlation. It's to Neil's
But
point.
you are
Yeah.
correct. I did run the number, it was in the 40s.
Okay.
That may be true, and you can't, that doesn't account for what types of students were being identified and their needs, right?
Right.
So just because you've had a hard number increase of 20% of students doesn't mean that I would expect to see just a 20% increase in costs. If you're identifying dozens more students with autism, those are going to be much higher needs than a student with a speech and language impairment, right? So I don't think it's necessarily apples to apples to say we've seen a 20%
Yeah, I
increase
think-
in students and a 40% increase in costs.
That's
right?
that's not the point. It's
Yeah.
more going to the encroachment on what's impacting the general fund.
Right. But I just want to keep in mind, like, we're still talking about students, right? And that their needs are
100%.
different in.
What's it? Yeah.
100%.
So, Jason, I just want to make sure I understand this graphic, but just for 23-24, the total revenues we received from the state is 3.1 million.
Yep.
Correct.
And then
There's some federal monies in that revenue?
Yeah, that's everything.
That's
Put it all together.
Just want to make sure, right? So, and our total expenditures right now for all the different needs of the 402 students that we saw, 7.4 million.
That's like when I said our $150, yes, we went over our
So
revenue.
the 4.7 is the contribution or the encroachment, which is almost 60%.
That's what has to get us back to zero.
So we're right around 40, what is it, 41.58 or 42.58%. 42% is the 3.1 million, so we get total revenue, and the other we have. to-
And remember, this is for sped, and I'm gonna make a point towards the end. These students are also bringing in other revenue.
Okay,
So we always gotta consider that.
no, and that's why I appreciate the slides. I'm trying to understand what this is telling me, because right now, based on this slide, it's telling me we're contributing, or there's an encroachment of about 58, a little bit over 58% or 4.7 million. Correct.
Yes,
That's what this slide's saying, right?
yeah, I mean, yes, not taking into account the ADA students bring in as well. You know what I mean? So remember, they get funding, they get funded ADA, and if they're supplemental, they get their 11,000 plus.
So where's that number?
Well, so again, we typically, we always space this out, but I will talk about that. I didn't put a total with that in there, but I'll talk about that, because each student,
It's important to see the
Yeah.
entire revenue or that would be.
I can put that in there. I mean, yeah.
Whole $4.7 million.
yeah, I mean, if we looked at the total group of how much on average they're bringing
It will be
in.
significantly lower than that.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's why I want
That's
to make sure I
really-
understand.
that's
because
really
I want to
important
recognize
because-
all of the revenue that goes to servicing
Yeah.
our students, and what I'm hearing is this sheet,
It's
this.
just special
slide is not
education.
Showing me that.
Well,
No,
see,
this
thank-
does not show the revenue from ADA.
See, thank you for that clarification, because I was
Right.
making an
Right.
assumption that ADA is
Yeah.
built into that.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jason, are you sure about that here? I mean,
Yeah,
this should be
it's,
total revenue and
That's
total expenditure with
No,
total.
3.1 million is the revenues for sped revenues that the students brought in.
Right, sped revenue including our ADA though, no?
No, that's 3.1 in our revenues.
I mean, I think I understand why, because you get numbers for students being students. This is the additional cost that you get for servicing them outside of a general education class, right?
Yeah,
So that's why it's for this program is what these numbers are. We get additional monies for
I
them.
know. I have
To
this, what your
educate them on the
questions are on the next slide.
If that's the case, this is not a reflective graph here. I was making an assumption that the ADA.
The ADA, yeah, the ADA is.
So this
Only
is,
special ed.
yeah, this is really not that helpful to me.
So this could still be the encroachment or the contribution in that we still need, the district, still needs $7.4 million to provide the special ed services that we're providing, not the instruction.
That's exactly right.
This is a huge distinction, though. I mean, I
Yeah.
just assumed $12,000 per student with the 10,000 ADA plus a couple thousand supplemental and such. roughly,
yeah.
Times 402 students is 4,824,000. That covers
That
that.
covers it. So that's,
This is a huge,
Yeah,
this
that's a
number
huge-
is, yeah.
yeah, there is my, so now it's almost like.
If that's the case,
that's-
that's.
boy, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
That would be great. So typically, the accounting of special ed, we wouldn't usually include ADA revenues. You're not gonna see ADA revenues included on a special. We can add that, but that's not how it's typically accounted for. In the purposes of
EDA
reporting.
Portion goes to the things we're talking
Right,
about.
right.
Yeah, remember-
Music program, the
All of
math
it.
instruction, all the other intervention
Right.
that they're obviously
Yeah.
still gonna.
This is a supplemental program. I mean, it's think about it as a supplemental program that stands alone.
It's still an encroachment,
Yeah, that's mandated by law.
Yeah,
but it's not a one-to-one.
Yeah.
No.
It's not one to one, but it's definitely not, this is like you're looking at a worst case scenario. It's not, I mean, the numbers would be a lot better if ADA was included in it.
Well, and
You understand?
It would be-
Like you
But
just-
zero.
Well,
Exactly.
I mean, the thing is that you can't include the ADA because the ADA is covering all of the things for them just being a student in this district.
yes,
Right? This is the added cost of them having additional needs that need to be serviced, right,
Right.
that need to be serviced. So just covering all of the cost
Okay.
of them being a
That's
student
fair.
here doesn't, you see that,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
they're two different things.
yeah, but the slide two, it just tells the story of the trajectory of each of these lines. So I wanna make sure, we have other slides that will hopefully give better context to understand that.
Let's keep going.
So yeah, if we go to this one, so this one, I know it's way overwhelming, but this breaks down all the lines that came up with, if you looked to the green line in the middle, that 3.1 million, that's all our sped revenue. You see a green line, that's revenue. Okay, so what I'm showing here is that 2021, that first arrow is our expenditures for special ed. And this is taking that line graph, but kind of breaking it down to show you all the different layers of special ed funding. And that was 4.2 million that we spent. And there, that same year, 2021, we received 2 million. Does that make sense? And then as we go to the next one, you'll see here, and this is the bump, if you will, the pandemic funding. They gave us a needed increase, however, something that is causing continuing effects. That's the best way to describe it. So we have about 400,000 of a bump that came in at that time that caused that reversal in that line we saw with the contribution. So that's what I was talking about. I just want to show you. So we don't have that anymore. We got back on track, but expenditures are going up, but we don't have that money anymore. Now, if we go to the next one, let me see here. Where is it? There it is. So then you'll see that total revenues that year went to 2.8. So we went to 2 million to 2.8. So this is, again, we're following that line, but this breaks it down with all those different line items. Then as we get here, we got our expenditures down there was 5 million. And then you kind of keep going. We went to 7 and then 7.4. Those are the total expenditures. Now, whatever, I don't need to put the contribution on here. You know what it is because we obviously did not make the same revenue that we spent. So we had to make that up. Okay, so this kind of gives you a bigger picture of how all the different lines in the funding we had over time and why there was that bump that created a little bit of a variance, if you will, over the trajectory. Let me go to the next slide. I want to show you okay, so here's a good one. This will hopefully give context just to the story. And I have anonymous districts. We do have 12 districts in the SELPA. I have right here 5 districts you'll see. And I can give you some idea. District A, I'll give you a number here. So District A has 369 special ed students according to their census data, like we have the number. District B has 126 special ed students. So obviously that's probably a small district. And these are all within the area, I'll just tell you. District C, we had 702. District D, 987. And District E has 2,837 special ed students. So this kind of gives you an idea, context of how many students we're talking about. And these are all districts within their area. So I couldn't throw their total numbers up here because it would be apples and oranges. I need to get something that brings it together. So I took that census data number, that 369 we saw at the beginning, and I just divided total expenditures. Now we're looking at a per pupil expenditure of special ed. And so this really brings us all together and compares us fairly with other districts. I mean, more accurately, I can't say everything's perfect, but you'll see there, out of the 6 districts, we start off in 18-19. Let me see if I got it. Oh, well, we'll start there, 2021. So right during the pandemic, we had that dip. Per pupil expenditures were about 14,202. And again, where we compare with the other districts, I don't need to tell you, you can see it. And then as we move over, we go 17,628. And then we have our bump. Now, as Nelson was saying, we had that 40% increase, everybody, it's one of those things like, wow, that looks terrible. But now we see other districts. I mean, this is a context, hopefully gives you context that our districts in our area are going through the same issues, if you will. So right now, and again, I want to make sure that 23-24 is based off second interim. That number can change, so don't hold me to it until we get to unaudited actuals. I can put this together again and put that number there. But you'll see we went up to 21,000. And then of course, I think, that was the last one. Okay, so, and then we are right now at 21,000. That's going to fluctuate, but hopefully that gives you some context as to where we are. Yes.
These students again in District A, you said?
District A, I had 369 SPED students. Yeah.
Is this a really difficult number? It sounds like it'd be a lot of work, but what I think would be helpful is if you took, I think it said 18 schools.
There's 12 schools in our SELPA.
Districts.
Sorry,
Districts.
my bad. I misspoke, but yes.
Could you give us an average of the 12?
Where we land on the average? Where we land on the average?
Yeah, what is the average of all 12? And then that against that, then it's,
I
would give us.
I definitely could. These are surrounding districts right around our area. So, yeah.
But still, obviously.
And again, I want to thank Van, our SELPA helped out with, giving me this data. So I can definitely ask them for the other districts. Okay, any questions about this? Okay. So here's kind of what I do for first and second interim when we do budget adoption. This will give you some idea of what's happened this year, so to speak. And let me just get to the first. Okay, so that top line, our budget adoption for all SPED, we were budgeted about 2.7 million when we did budget adoption. At first interim, you see that went up a little bit to 2.8, and those are revenues, remember. And then second interim, I reported 3.1. Why? Well, AB 602. I mean, it does impact it based on your enrollment in P1 and P2 and all these other pieces. So you can get higher number. I do want to say another thing about SPED enrollment, because since we're in a SELPA, just because our numbers go up, and this is something we all have to consider, like, we get more funding. Well, we're in a SELPA, so that's kind of like a pool. So just because the numbers go up, for us, the pool might go down. So we did have an increase, that's, of revenue, but it can always come out even in some ways. It usually doesn't, but it could. Because if the pool is losing ADA or enrollment as a pool, even though our numbers are getting bigger, we get a higher portion of the pool, but it's less money we're grabbing for. So I hope you understand. So if there's like $100, that's the pool, but and our percentage is 10, but because we had more students, so we go to 15. But the pool overall drops to 80, right? Our number is going to go down. So it can be affected by the pool with the 80 and the enrollment for the whole group. So that does have an impact. So it's never a perfect 1-for-1, if you will. So I just want to make sure you understand that. We did have increases in ADA, but that's where we're landing. And then I want to get to, so just again, vacancies. I think Dr. Goldman mentioned it, if we do have vacancies here, we're going to have to pay for it somewhere. So we did have some vacancies, but we will have to go to contracts because we do have to cover with our specialized academic instruction. Kids have very specific needs that need highly trained staff. And so we did have an increase in our contracts, and it's pretty clear as to why by now we had an increase in SPED students throughout the year. And this isn't just one-on-ones. I mean, this can be, you'll see on the board agenda today for IEE. So we're going to have to assess, and it can be up to $6,000. And so every time a student needs an assessment, it's $6,000. And actually, I walked over today and I wanted to make sure how much do they actually charge? And most of them come in about $7,500, but we have to, Peggy has to negotiate them down to the 6,000.
I was just gonna say, so that's not when we assess. That's when.
No, that's when we
the
contract
out-
assessment.
So we do the assessment first.
Yes.
I just wanna,
Yeah.
it's
Thank
not that
you.
much
Thank
to be
you.
assessed.
Yeah. So when we contract, so contracts can be assessments, they can be one-on-ones. There's a lot of different pieces to that.
I mean, parent disagreed
Exactly.
with the district's assessment, so now
Yes.
we've asked for an evaluation.
Correct. So I wanna so right now, the other outgo, this is another one that can vary greatly from year to year. If we have to send a student to MPS, and I did budget for 540 just in case, but at the, halfway through the year, we're like, listen, we're only gonna have about 2 kids, so we can downgrade that a little bit. And we adjusted the budget accordingly. But one student can cost up to $100,000 for MPS. So if we had 4 students next year to do this, we're gonna have to adjust the budget or get ready for it. We don't know that right now, but that can be something that IEP determines, and all of a sudden we have an excess cost there.
Jason?
Yes.
Question for Peggy. Peggy, and when a parent asks for an independent evaluation, is that automatically granted and then it's a cost to the district? How does that work? Because we have 4 items in today's agenda, and since we're on that topic, might as well ask the question now.
So the district can deny a request for an IEE. If they do, then if we do, I shouldn't say they, if we do deny a request, we then are obligated to file for due process in order to defend our assessment. So either way, it costs us money. Either we pay for the assessment and then we have to consider that at an IEP meeting, or we have to file for due process and go to through litigation with the family.
But we don't have to do it. We could go that alternate.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So in total, you see the expenditures went up 138, but however, our contribution is affected by that too, 107. I think in total, we're looking at, what is that, about 245,000. Given the correlation of increase of SPED students, we got to think about that. And I haven't even gotten to the part when we're talking about ADA and pieces like that. I think that's all I have for that slide. Let me see. Okay. So considerations. We already talked about this, but I wanted to make sure, and I wrote up there, you see italics that says offset. We do have to consider, each student on average gets about 8,000 per student for special education purposes. So we just did an average total revenues divided by, our that census data number. It's about 8,000 per student, approximately 11,000 in ADA. It's probably up to about 11,400 now. If they're a supplemental student, they get 20% on top of that. Let's just say for 18 to 19,000 per student. So there's where, yes, exactly. So that's where we have an offset. And again, we don't typically in SPED or in the world of budget, we don't account for it like that. It's just the way it is. But I want to, and what I'm doing, and I know many special education advocates and people in the field would love to hear, because I'm advocating, I'm saying there is offset. And so I will argue that the contribution is not always bad when you look at that offset. And typically we don't put it up there. So I want to point that out. But also if we look at the next bullet down, we do have good monitoring. We're working on that. But it's a statutory obligation. So like when we have to do these IEDs and we don't, we went through the process, the IEP determines that a one-on-one's needed. That's a legal document. That's a group that's mandated by federal law. So just keep that in mind for the obligation piece. Conclusions. I don't need to go over it all again, but I want to make sure, the pandemic money had an impact on our trajectory and our budget. And so we are still somewhat recovering from that. But another conclusion you can consider is getting into this final, this last year, you're starting to see that evening off. We're still going up. I won't say we're not going up, but we're not getting this 40% increase. I just don't see how that's going to happen, anytime soon, because we had a major event for kids, especially young kids, that caused a lot of, need for support. And so then if you look at the final bullet, I just said that already, so I just want to make sure. Any questions about the considerations or conclusions right now? Okay. Oh, look, I'm in that arrow zone. Okay, so let me go back to this one. Just, we need to continue to monitor. I meet with our sped department, weekly, sometimes more than weekly. I'm going over all the contracts, regularly. You know, I oversee and look at those invoices that come in on a regular basis, making sure, things are happening. Whenever there's a need for a one-on-one, we have a process now to approve it, so we're all aware. You know, so there's a lot of layers we've added, especially over the last year, when it comes to just monitoring and looking at those one-on-one services. It's also correlated with Dr. Dugal and HR as well. The other piece here is, you know, we're going to continue to refine the budget plan. I mean, we just got to keep looking at what we're going to do if we're going to have unforeseen costs. I mentioned those NPAs. It's just something, you know, I have good conversations. I know when things are happening, we got to make sure if we have potential litigation coming up, all those pieces are part of the plan as we're budgeting forward. And of course, filling vacancies with Wiseburn employees is another piece. And then continuing to utilize what one-time funding we have. So we do have some pandemic money left. We're going to utilize that, you know, but it's all due really up till September 30th. And then, of course, if we need to really reallocate resources that affects other programs, that would be like our last resort, but we'd have to consider that.
Jason, as we look at like for budgeting purposes or forecasting our expenses, obviously if we had more revenue, then we provide more services, right? Based on the state of the budget, that's not gonna happen.
Not
We're not
this year,
doing that,
too.
right? So is it fair to say that if we balance our services with the students' needs and we can provide the services in a more economical way, we could save dollar for dollar in essence from the contribution of the encroachment piece, right?
Yes.
Because right now that number is still a real number, that 4.7, even if you factor in, if you were to contribute the whole ADA to it, if we were to reduce either the services or provide them in a more efficient way or cost saving measures, those efforts are still a good approach because we would have savings.
Yes. I think the fastest step for us is really the one-on-ones and considering how we can be creative around that. If we're going to need a one-on-one aid, or if we can do combined aids that can support multiple students in some ways, but that would also have to be articulated through the IEP. So that is a piece we'd have to consider.
Well, it feels like that on that hiring piece, right? That, you know, hiring more district employees is going to be a cost savings, right, over the contract services. So, you know, hopefully we can get that RBT position posted and start to reduce that number of staffing agency and NPA, you know, aides one-on-one within the district itself. Brandon, our BCBA is wonderful. And so I'm very much looking forward to having him be able to supervise more people directly. RBT.
Registered Behavior Technician.
What is the number, sorry, and I don't know if you have this number, what is the number of the account, they're different from all of, for the behavior aids versus the regular instructional aids? What is 1313?
You have 13 NPAs and 13 staffing aides.
Are you asking how many overall assistants we have in the district?
Yes, yeah, what's the ratio? Because in my experience, there's less ABAs rather than regular instructional aides.
So in the district, we only have instructional aides as employees.
Sorry.
Okay, sorry, I'm not understanding.
One-on-one aides, they're not always certified to be behavior.
Correct.
Right. So what is the ratio, what's the difference between those two numbers? Because I do know that the ones that have the special certification are more expensive, right?
Correct.
They get paid more regardless of whether they're an outside agency or whether or not they're a district employee. So I guess my question is, what is the ratio of that number? In experience, it's been less than, you know, a regular one-on-one.
I don't have that information ready, but I can come back with it.
Yeah, to know that.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Any other?
Comment. I would say that, you know, one of the things when you look, we've spent quite a bit of time as a team working on the staffing, resource allocation, and special education this year, looking at our contribution, our points. And I think that some of the big issues do revolve around staffing, and I think that we need, and some of it's out of our control, staff. So I just want to put that out there, that a lot of it's out of control. I mean, we can only hire what we can hire, and then we have to fill gaps. And, you know, we have to, as a, I think, a moral and ethical imperative and a necessity, provide the services that the students need, based on their IEP. And so it is that, that commitment and that necessity that we have, as well as in trying to be as efficient as we can, you know, with the resource allocation, making sure that we have, you know, the right people, you know, supporting those students. And so, I mean, I would say that, you know, it's been quite you saw the numbers, right? You see the increase. And so it's been a lot of us having to triage some items, really make sure that we get those. And this summer, you know, we'll do another deep dive on this and make sure that we, you know, align resources again, or realign resources as students move up, and some students maybe change service needs or IEPs change, et cetera. That'll be a good summer of practice for us. So I just wanted to say that. I know, Roger, you asked about like efficiency of, you know, if it does save $1. I think that the team has been largely efficient. It's more a matter of, you know, you're responding in real time, and some of it is just out of our control. So just saying that, and I know you didn't mean, you know, I understand the question and I agree with it. And I think that we need to do a good job of trying to get that dollar for dollar savings where we can, you know, program management.
And you know, two money comments, to the efficiency comment, point rather. It does look like we're being comparatively efficient. So kudos to the team. I don't want that to be lost here. I can't comment on the quality. I'm assuming we're making great quality. I'm hoping we're making great quality, but I just don't have knowledge of that comparatively. The other point is we have seen a consistent increase in number, thus we can expect a consistent increase in cost, even if we're more efficient in bringing things in-house. I would ask us to be conservative in our estimate of an increase when we go to the budgeting for next year. Don't just use numbers, factor in an increase as we're making this calculation, because otherwise I don't want to get surprised.
Yep.
Thank you.
We're almost there too, right? We've basically already budgeted that.
Oh, yeah.
We're almost done.
I wanted to, you know, thank Jason and Peggy for the presentation. It's not an easy subject matter, and the financial aspect of it is complex, as you can see, but it's really important for us as a board to kind of understand it. And I really appreciate the presentation. I echo actually all of my colleagues' comments, and you know, I think now we're starting to actually have a better understanding of this, and hopefully we can better support you in some of the decision making, especially if staffing becomes an area where we can maybe have some efficiency or whatever. But thank you. I know this is a very difficult subject matter, and I want to just thank you both for doing that. Thank you.
And can I say too, it's like I appreciate both sides of the conversation, because we do have competing forces here, right? We have a budget and finite resources, and then you have, you know, significant student need. And so trying to balance need and also balance a budget has, you know, yes, we have to answer questions to the board, because I mean, that's your fiduciary responsibility. So understand that, appreciate that. And I wanted to say that too, is I totally appreciate the question and answer session, like what we're able to do, and appreciate the team for putting it together. I know it's been a tough year. It really has, and really appreciate the time, Peggy and Jason for putting this together.
And we made you put this presentation on hold for 2 weeks.
Thank you. Yes, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where are we at? Where are we at? This week's leadership report to pass that. Okay, are we at superintendent's report?
We are. I'm gonna say I apologize. I've been running in and out for good reason. My daughter is actually receiving awards for Da Vinci Science graduation, 8th grade. Your 8th grade. Your 8th grade just got them. Senior year awards. So I'm kind of popping in and out trying to see them. So, but they're done. And so thank you for bearing with me. I appreciate that. Yeah, thanks. Had an opportunity to I just want to give a couple shout outs. I had an opportunity to go watch the middle school boys volleyball team. Tanya Morrison's the coach there, and you know, I want to say shout out to her for just the energy that she puts into that team and the volleyball program, both at the middle school, you know, at the middle school level for both boys and girls. It was fun. You know, it was really a fun. There were a lot of parents there. They played Paris Middle School in Redondo Beach. It was just a lot of fun. I just wanted to say that, and just seeing the energy and just seeing that connection to sport that the kids have and the connection to the school is really cool. One thing I did note, and I would ask this board if we can support that, is they're still wearing Dana Dolphins jerseys, and I think we need to upgrade that. So this summer, I think we're gonna look to spend some money on kind of re-upping those uniforms. 90% of them need to be re-upped anyway, and it's about that time in the cycle. But we definitely wanna do that. Wanted to also share that I also got a chance to go to open houses, got to join, Michelle and Nelson and Neil, also at between the various open houses. And I'm just going to echo the sentiments that I heard, being able to talk to, it's kind of like this mad dash when you're going through open house, because you want to get to all the classrooms, and it's like, you kind of peek in and like, wait, hey, you see, and move on to the next one because it's an hour, but just, I agree, just the energy is so positive. And it leaked into yesterday, this at the event, that we had the staff appreciation event. And I just have to say, and I mean, I know a lot of people were involved, but really the magic behind that was Wendy, who's sitting here today. I mean, really that event does not happen if Wendy's not quarterbacking that entire thing and making sure that battery packs are in the right place and the shirts are packed up. I mean, there were buckets and buckets of shirts. I mean, just the shirt organization was something else. So really want to thank Wendy for that, and then the team, that she assembled in a sense to make sure that happened. But just the energy in the room was really nice, and I think part of it is just from how it was constructed, how the day was constructed, and just being able to kind of roll out our brand. It really was the first time that the district got to roll out the new brand and give the t-shirts and so forth. Well, anyway, I'm excited. I get to be a substitute teacher in a 6th grade math class. I should say I'm partially excited because math isn't the class I would have chosen. I would probably have pretty much any other subject I would have chosen, other than math. But I mean, I think I need to shift that mindset.
You want to repeat what you said?
What did I say?
There won't be any learning of math.
But I do realize though, that I think kids oftentimes go into classes with that same mentality that you can't learn math. And so I need to shift that philosophy. I'm going to teach the best 6th grade math class. Also really appreciated the conversations I was able to have with Matt and Tom. I know Tom joined us today. We're going to have more conversations about that. And I know his team is going to provide some updates. But, one thing that we heard on the Cisco visit, which I appreciate you all pointing out, a quote that Travis Allen shared. For those of you who don't remember, or do remember, I guess, Travis Allen came and presented to our school district about 10 years ago. He does the escape bus and innovation and education, and he has a company called ProSolve. But he said, AI will always write a better 5-paragraph essay than all of us. AI will always write a better 5-paragraph essay. So kind of let that sink in, right? And that's a hard thing to think about as a teacher, as an educator, to know that I can always put facts on a paper and AI is going to write that 5-paragraph essay better than me. But it's how do we leverage the AI and the tool? How do we leverage our own knowledge, our own skill set to be able to provide AI the information, I guess, to write that 5-paragraph essay eventually, right? It's like putting the numbers in the calculator in some ways. So anyway, I just wanted to say that was a takeaway for me, and something I shared with Tom in an email, just how important that's going to be as we start exploring AI in the future. I think that sooner or later we're not going to see these programs that catch AI. I mean, it's just going to be pointless. You're just going to use it. Also want to share that today I got notice that Aviation Elementary School, Weisburn Middle School, Da Vinci Science Communications and Design both received California Honor Roll. And I just am totally missing the organization, but I will share that. I'll send that out, the notice. And that is really focusing on closing the achievement gap and focusing on underserved students. And so those schools were picked out. So, in good company with our Da Vinci partners, excited about that recognition. Pretty cool stuff. Also wanted to give a couple updates on construction, some of our projects. I was going to ask, we have a technology issue. I mean, we have an issue in technology for sure. We're trying to fix that issue. But one of the things that we're getting to is the summer's coming quickly, and we really want to utilize those 40 to 50 days of summer. And there's a lot of work planned, but it's going to take some pretty pretty interesting scheduling for us to make sure that we meet some of the deadlines that we need to make. So I would ask, we are looking and we're waiting for a bill of materials and some other information from our vendor, you know, that will provide us with more guidance. And I know She's wondering, what's he gonna say right now? But we're waiting for that information. And so we may have to time a special board meeting potentially just for that one item. Because the idea is like on the 12th of June, if we don't get that contract approved on the 12th of June, we're really gonna be pushing it. I mean, that's our target date right now. So before that, we're actually hoping to have a facilities committee meeting with the, you know, two gentlemen that Nelson and Roger on the 30th, if we can, if not sometime that week. So we'll send something out just so that we can try and arrange that, because we'd like to be able to front load you with some of the information related to that. And then we'll decide there if we need to have a special board meeting or if we just roll it into the meeting on the 12th. So anyway, sure.
On that note,
Yeah.
the proposal that we received for the project, has the district, we received that already, and will we have enough time to review it?
So
I don't want to presuppose necessarily an approval until we receive it, review it, and negotiate if we need to.
correct. So what we're gonna do, we're looking to receive it tomorrow. And then we will sit down, we're gonna have a meeting separately, me, Cherie, Noemi, Jason, Nisha. We'll sit down and go through and make sure that Quan's there as well, and Quan's the most important person on. Quan's ready to the hand back there, but we'll have that, and then we'll bring to you what we think is more of like a real good proposal. Yeah, exactly. And maybe we'll throw some options in there and say we could do, you know, but we'll have it pretty vetted out for you by the time that it gets to you. So anyway, just wanted to give that update. Also excited to share that we're gonna have, we're gonna actually be breaking ground, or at least putting some fences up, construction fences that is, on the Da Vinci High School, Wiseburn High School, the Wiseburn Da Vinci High School soccer field, right here. I believe Tuesday, we're gonna start seeing those fences go up. So, you know, we're on track, on target to finally have that field built and kind of get that done. So really excited. Yeah. A long time coming to that.
Dirt removal
Dirt removal will start, not sure yet, but shortly thereafter.
And what did you say? You think it might be complete by June 30th?
No. I didn't say that. No, I didn't say that. No. I can't even joke that much. I mean, I'm thinking maybe end of August.
What year?
What year? Also wanted to share one of the things that came out, this was my last topic. One of the things that came out of our, when we did the board workshop, was how to put agenda items on. I didn't add that to the bottom of this agenda because I did want to further some conversations there about having future agenda items as one of the topics, just so that we can, you know, as you see today, lots of presentations. I mean, we kind of were the victim of time and not being able to meet and all that. But I mean, I think that moving forward, it is important that we, you know, that we spread things out. And there's already a lot of presentations that we have to give. And so we want to just make sure that we're managing our presentations effectively and managing the needs of the board, making sure that you're getting the presentations that you want and deserve and that kind of thing. So more to come on that. I share that to say, I think we need to have that conversation. Tonight's probably not the night at 8:30, but that we would maybe have that conversation at one point to get that out. That's it. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Blake. We are going to take a quick 5-minute recess and then we'll reconvene. Right. Thank you. Good. Hello, everyone. We're back from recess. Before we move to consent items, I did want to just take a moment to thank Blake, Wendy, and the entire cabinet for all the preparation, the summary with regards to the board items tonight. Thank you. We really appreciate it as a board. So thank you very much. All right. Do I have a motion for item 9.1?
So moved.
I moved some
My apologies. Thank you, Roger, for keeping me in order.
Public comment.
Public comments. Do
Yep.
we have public comments on agenda items?
Do not.
I knew that. Oh,
That's why it was approved.
Are we done? This one, or are we calling out?
Michelle said she had.
I have a comment
On 914.
914,
So
okay.
we should move and second first and then go to comment.
Yeah, so do we have a motion for 9.1?
Yes.
Was that you, Rebecca?
Yeah.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Thank you, Michelle. And Michelle had a comment on 9.14?
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me, point of.
Yeah.
Are we approving 9.1? Are we?
When we do 9.1, it's all of.
9.1 through.
9.1
Is
covers-
the entire,
yeah, it's
sorry,
the entire.
thank you.
It is 8:34, we understand. Okay, I think Michelle, you had a comment on 9.14 or a question?
A comment on 9.4, it's consent for personnel certificated.
Okay.
I just wanted to take a moment to recognize Sarah Nitzos for the amount of years that she's contributed to this district. I know, I do, sorry. And I'm happy and sad that I get to be in this position, but happy that I get to be here to say these comments to you and for you, but sad because it means you're leaving. I just wanted to express to you, Sarah was probably one of my first experiences with Wiseburn, and I contribute the feeling that I have for this district a lot to Sarah Nitzos. She puts so much heart and soul into, she doesn't even want to look at me. She put so much heart and soul into this district, and I knew from that moment that this was a very special place to be. And aside from that, her intellect, the way she just attacks every situation. I like being with her because I get to see that whirlwind of the thought process and the firing that it's exciting because, you know, no one is safe from Sarah. And again, I'm glad I'm on the right side of that. And again, I just wanted to acknowledge the contribution, the amount of years, all the hats that she's worn for this district. And I think that would be a complete disservice if we didn't recognize this. And I now get to know you in a different capacity, and I'm so grateful for that. And yeah, thanks. A round of applause for that.
Michelle was gonna say, well said, and we don't have to approve 9.1.
Okay, great. I was wondering.
Just pull it. We'll table it.
All right.
I have a question.
Yes.
Question on 9.9 through 9.12. These are the items that we talked about a little while ago with regards to the independent evaluation. Have we made a commitment or stated that we Wiseburn would do this?
Yes.
These are all IEEs, Peggy.
Yes, I know.
All of them are IEEs.
I'm aware. Yes. There it is. Yes, we have made the commitment. We're in litigation.
So then, okay, so that maybe for a future conversation, we can discuss. Well, let me leave it at that. I think we need to have I would like to have a future conversation on just the assessments and the individual evaluations a little bit more.
I mean, obviously you have to approve them and they wouldn't happen if you didn't. So, I mean, I'm just
I
saying.
think he means like the actual to get.
What's
What's our process?
Right,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
how do
I
you
mean-
get to an individual IE? Yeah, I
It
know.
depends. There are a lot of different ways to get to that. There are different processes that trigger an IEE or authorizing.
And that's what I'm trying to understand too, because obviously our staff, yourself, go through this rigorous process of doing the initial assessment to begin with.
Yes.
So.
Thank you for acknowledging that.
Did
everyone hear that?
It's very difficult. I mean, I can imagine even just a conversation with parents, right? So I do put a lot of trust and faith in what you and our staff is doing. So a question, just because, and I'm not trying to sound cavalier about this. If there's a request to do an independent evaluation, what metrics do we use to actually do it? Because it comes at a cost. I mean, I put my faith and confidence in you and your staff doing our initial evaluation. So why should we be doing an independent evaluation do we agree with it, or is it just a request? That's a conversation I'd like to have, because I know it's a lengthy process in the initial evaluation that your team does. So all these independent evaluations also come at a cost. I mean, these are just happened before, and it's over $16,000. And we've already done a lot of the legwork. So I need to understand a little bit more goes into that piece. And so, and that's why I asked if you've already made the verbal commitment, because I'm inclined to support the conversation so that you negotiate and talk to parents in good faith. Right, so, but I need to understand a little bit more than how that initial first assessment goes, so that's why I asked the question.
So I think too, what I hear too, and I appreciate the question, is that we need to come back more with probably more specifically on the assessment process, how those assessment sort of findings, I guess, how internally we get to that, and then what potentially triggers an IEE or the press. So at least it's almost like we need to understand the flow so that you're better, so you have, I mean, it's information, you're better informed about that process. And then, you know, we could share our practices and obviously we do, our assessments, actually our assessments are, I mean, from my seat, our assessments are done very well. I mean, but sometimes you're gonna run into this. I know Rebecca, you were
I just was gonna say that, you know, this is for 2 students, that there's 4 assessments, but it's actually 2 students. 1 student is getting 3 evaluations. So that to me says that there's something significant about that case, that there's something going on between the parents and the district of significant disagreement about the needs of the student and that sort of thing, and it's a lengthy process to get there. I think one of the things that I would love to know is just the frequency. You know, I think someone asked this in a slightly different fashion before, but it's not very often that we get asked to do IEEs. They are an extraordinary circumstance. They're not every case. Most parents do agree with the district's assessment. You know, I obviously go through this process with my own children, and you know, sometimes there are just disagreements about, you know, what the findings are and what the needs are and that sort of thing. And usually you can work most of those things out. And what these things to me say are that there were some extraordinary circumstances in whatever's happening in these particular cases, because they don't happen. So I think maybe just some, as you talk about the process, just noting how frequent it is that we're seeing disagreements with our assessments, to the extent that folks are asking for the IEEs.
Yeah, I was thinking too, you know, I put total number of dollars, like what is our actual, you know, actual expenditures on IEEs as well, you know, so that we can have a more comprehensive look at like how are and as these things come up, I mean, this was kind of part of us studying special education this year and beyond, is that we can then take a look at it and take these questions, because it's hard. I think we said this from the beginning. It was part 1. There's so much that we could cover with special education and you know, so it's good to come along these tangents, if you will, and kind of say, okay, well, we can now focus on this. So maybe we will, during the summer or even leading into next year, we can do another smaller presentation on, you know, the assessment process going to IEE.
And I think it would help to include due process, right? Because that's the alternative route. It's just, you know, how often are we or parents choosing to go the due process route? Because I think having that comprehensive look at all of the different possibilities as you go through the IEP process might be helpful to all of us to. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessary, you know, this is not an immediate need, I don't think, but like, you know, like you said, over the summer sometime or something in preparation for looking at stuff in the new school year, because we've also seen several, you know, settlements come out of due process this year on the agenda and things like that, so would be helpful.
For the good questions and for the confidence in the staff, because we do really have very good staff and they do very good assessments. I'm glad. Thank you for acknowledging.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on consent items? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to action items number 10, general. First item is an improvement agreement with Capturing Kids' Hearts, 10.1. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to move 10.1 and 10.2.
Oh, that
You
would
have
be
a second.
That's good.
That's what I was
Not
gonna
gonna,
suggest.
I appreciate that. I'm not gonna argue with you guys. All in favor?
Aye.
Modi, you didn't have a presentation for that?
I don't think we should do that.
On Next item is action item number 11 for facilities. Does anyone want to take a motion and offer up more than just 11.1?
I move 11.1 to 11.8 with a question on 11.2.
Fantastic. Thank you,
Two,
Neil.
you said?
Yeah.
Thank you. Through 11.8, Neil.
So are you gonna be able to answer this?
Second, I also have a question too.
Thank you, Roger. So we got 11.2, 11.8. Any other comments or questions from? All right, 11.2, Roger.
Neil?
I'll defer to you, it's fine.
I was just
Might be the
going by order.
Might be the same question.
So just a.
Oh, I thought you said
Same item.
Oh, I think you said 11.8 for some reason.
No, 11.8 is the.
Oh, my
It's
apologies. My
fine.
apologies. I
Just
should
wanted to confirm at 11.2, the manufacturer of the turf, is that the Tincani turf that got presented?
That is
to us
correct.
before? Okay, great.
Is that included in this?
No, this is for the installation.
Yeah, this isn't the turf itself.
Right, correct.
The turf was already previously approved.
So my question goes to the budget. It's a $1.8 million budget. If you look at I'm being sarcastic, I don't mean to be mean, just a very detailed proposal. I'm kidding. It's half a page. Is 1.2 to 1.4 million. There's a $40,000 district allowance. And then I'm still seeing at least a $4 million difference there. Is that contingency? $400,000, sorry. $400,000 difference. Is that a contingency? I'm not understanding how we get from 1.2 to 1.4 as a project estimate and a bid of 1.8. I'm confused. If you'll call up the attachment.
Yeah, it's on the attachment. I see. It's a project estimate is 1.2 to 1.4, but then the total bid was 1.8, 1.9.
Unless we're expecting significant soil issues or something.
Yeah. Is that?
So
is
the
project
The project estimate is what is advertised at the time of legal advertisement. So that's based on an estimate of what the construction cost is,
I don't like
is
that.
estimated to be. Obviously, again, it's an estimate. And then current construction conditions with materials are going to drive what the actual cost of the construction is going to be based on the bidding document.
This is the actual
So-
bid.
Correct.
What is the project estimate was our estimate prior to bidding.
That is correct.
What is the contingency component of the 1.8? How much, do we have 10% contingency built into this?
There is not.
There's no
So our
contingency.
contingency is the district allowance of 40,000 that we have built into the construction costs for any unforeseen conditions that we did not capture.
That seems naively small.
So if I, just for clarification, so this is a hard bid from the contractor that submitted the bid.
That is correct.
We included $40,000 to already have in the contract with the contractor to use on the project at staff's discretion when unforeseen conditions or things come up. That doesn't mean that we as a district don't have a separate contingency for the project. It's just not contractually
I understand.
in the contractor's budget because that's not part of the bid. We reserve the contingency in our fund.
That's helpful in Noemi.
Let me correct.
No, let me go on vacation. Not allowed to. We're not allowed to. On vacation.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, just to clarify, we are carrying a 10% contingency on the project. We also are carrying a $40,000 owner allowance to be used for unforeseen conditions and at the discretion of the district. So for anything that should come up during construction, in addition to the 10% contingency that I am carrying on this project. The 1.2 to 1.4 million is the estimate that we show. As you might recall, the project estimate was $1.8 million, so it's very much in line. But I tend to show a lower estimate when I put this out to bid for contractors. I don't want to, put all my cards on the table and show the 1.8. So I always go lower in hopes that it'll come in around that. But that has nothing to do with the construction estimate. If you look back at my presentations, 1.8 was a cost estimate from the architect all along.
This is within our expected budget.
Absolutely. I mean, slightly higher,
That was the bigger question.
but very much in line. And keep in mind, it does include the $40,000 that I've asked them to include for us to use at the discretion of the district.
Thank you. Be on vacation.
Thank you. Thank you, Amy. Go to sleep.
It's only midnight over here. It's okay.
So what that does mean is if something does come up and we have that 40,000, as long as it's within that $40,000 range, we don't have to come back to the board with the change order.
Makes sense.
So it's already built into the contract. And if there are no unforeseens, that 40,000 gets credited back to the district and to the bond at time of closeout of the contract.
I like these answers a whole lot better. Thank you.
Excellent. And then just take a quick, let's see if I can ask some other questions of Sheree. All right, I think I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Fantastic.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Sheree. Thank you, Noemi. And good night.
Thanks, Noemi.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay. All right. Fiscal, next item is item 12, fiscal.
1 to 12:3.
That would be great. Do I have a motion for 12:1 to 12:3? You know, Blake is. Michelle, thank you.
Yeah, second.
Thank you, Neil. Any comments or questions?
Kudos and thank you to King Consulting for all their help.
Yes, thank you all very much. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Upcoming dates and events, Blake.
Yeah, right now we just have the next meeting, which will just be just a few hours from now. I think we'll be sending probably a much less detailed update tomorrow. just to be clear and transparent. But no, we will have that update, agenda analysis, other updates I want to send to the board tomorrow by close of business. Also, I mean, we're wrapping up testing, and I know the 19th, is that right? Or am I wrong on that? No, the 19th would be Sunday, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And we should certainly be done by then. Tomorrow.
When does CAST data come back?
CAST, right, CAST.
2025? Okay.
We think it'll be released in the fall, late fall 2025.
Thank you.
I think there are a couple of events happening at the schools between now.
All right.
Tomorrow night, 5 to 7, Holly Glynn's having a multicultural night that was put together by parents who really wanted to see that happen. So there will be food and celebration of our family's cultures.
Nice.
You're done. Thank you, everyone, for hanging in. Good night.